For thousands of years, humanity has crafted wonders that continue to baffle us. From tools older than civilizations, to artifacts that hint at lost knowledge, to discoveries that challenge what we thought we knew about our ancestors, tonight we explore mysteries of ancient technology that remain unsolved. Settle in, let your mind wander through time, and allow yourself to drift into the quiet curiosity of the past. And if you enjoy this journey through history, don't forget to subscribe and leave a comment sharing your favorite discovery. The first human face of stone, Karahantepe's silent watcher. In the soft silence of the Anatolian plateau, where the wind moves slowly over the dry hills of southeastern Turkey, there lies a place that has kept its secrets longer than any city, longer than any temple, longer than memory itself. Karahantepe is one of those quiet places that appears almost empty at first glance, just an expanse of stone and earth beneath the wide blue sky. But beneath that surface, buried under thousands of years of dust and soil, rests a story so ancient, so powerful, that it stretches back to the dawn of human imagination. It is here, in this forgotten landscape, that archaeologists uncovered one of the most profound discoveries in human history, a pillar carved more than 11,000 years ago, bearing the first known depiction of a human face. It is simple, still, and yet impossibly alive, and in its silence it holds the very first reflection of what it meant to be human. Karahantepe belongs to a network of prehistoric sanctuaries known as Taş Tepeler, the Stone Hills. These sites, including the more famous Göbekli Tepe, were built long before writing, before metal, before the idea of cities had even taken root. The people who raised these pillars were hunter-gatherers, people who lived from the land and followed the seasons, yet somehow they built monuments that rival the scale and precision of civilizations that would not rise for thousands of years to come. When archaeologists first uncovered the human face carved into one of the T-shaped pillars, they were struck by something beyond the age or the artistry. This was not merely decoration, it was a revelation, a moment when the human mind turned inward and began to imagine itself. Until that discovery, the pillars of Göbekli Tepe and the surrounding hills had always been faceless, marked only with symbols and animals, representations of a spiritual world that was still beyond the self. But this face, carved with careful precision, represented something new, the birth of self-awareness, the first human attempt to give form to identity. Imagine the person who made it. A craftsman, standing in the same dust, feeling the same sun on his skin, the same wind across his face. He looks at the block of limestone before him, tall, pale, and silent, and begins to carve. Each stroke of his tool removes centuries of stone, and as the dust falls away, the faint outline of eyes begins to appear, then a nose, then a mouth. It's not detailed, not perfect, but it's enough to feel presence, enough to recognize life. In that moment, he is no longer carving an object. He is creating connection. When the archaeologists brushed the last traces of soil away, what they found was hauntingly simple. 2 hollow eyes, a soft ridge for the nose, and a thin straight line that suggests a mouth. Yet there's something undeniably human in it, a faint echo of expression, a sense of being. It is not a god's face, not a monster, not a symbol of fear or authority. It is calm, it is still, it simply exists. This single face changed how we understand the people of the ancient world. For years, scholars believed that complex art, religion, and symbolism arose only after humans began to settle into farming communities. But Karahantepe tells a different story. It shows that long before we tamed the land, we had already begun to shape our thoughts, our beliefs, and our sense of who we were. Walking through the excavated chambers of Karahantepe today, you can almost hear the echo of those who gathered here thousands of years ago. The site is filled with long stone benches carved directly into the bedrock. The walls are decorated with sculptures of animals, leopards, snakes, and foxes, creatures that must have held deep meaning to the people who came here. The central space, circular and enclosed, might have been a place for ritual or storytelling, where the firelight would flicker against the stone, casting shadows that danced like living spirits. In one of these chambers, the face still watches. Its eyes have seen nothing for millennia, yet they seem to look beyond time. When you stand before it, there's an almost overwhelming sense that you are being observed, as if the stone remembers. The quiet air, the soft hum of insects, and the faint shifting of sand underfoot only deepen the feeling. No one knows exactly who the people of Karahantepe were. Their language, their rituals, even their names have all been lost. But what we do know is that they were builders, artists, and thinkers. They moved heavy stones across the landscape with no wheels, no beasts of burden, no written plans. They carved the world into meaning. They saw divinity in the shapes around them, in the animals they hunted, in the sky that watched over them, in the earth that gave them life. To carve a human face was to take a daring step. It meant turning that sense of wonder inward, to see the divine reflected in human form. In that sense, the face at Karahantepe is not just the first portrait, it is the first mirror. Archaeologists studying the site have found that it shares striking similarities with Göbekli Tepe, which lies just 30 miles away. Both sites were built during the same era, around 9500 BCE, and both feature T-shaped pillars arranged in circles, surrounded by carvings of animals and abstract symbols. But Kara-Hon-Tepe seems even older, and even more personal. Here the human figure appears more frequently, suggesting that this was the place where people first began to explore what it meant to be human in the eyes of their gods. The discovery of the carved face has led to new theories about the role of these sanctuaries. Some believe they were built not as places to worship gods but as spaces to transform the people who entered them. Perhaps they were initiation sites, where ordinary hunters and gatherers came to undergo rituals that connected them to the cosmos, to the ancestors, and to each other. The face then could represent rebirth, the moment a person becomes something more, a being who understands themselves as part of a larger story. There are moments when archaeologists uncover things that feel less like science and more like meeting an old friend. This is one of those moments. When you look at that face, you are looking into a memory of humanity itself, the first time someone tried to capture what it feels like to exist. It's easy to think of the ancient world as primitive, but discoveries like Kara-Hon-Tepe remind us that our ancestors were not so different from us. They wondered about life and death. They gathered together under the stars. They built with purpose, with care, and with meaning. They made art not just to decorate, but to understand. And as you imagine this world now, the flicker of torchlight, the cool touch of stone, the quiet voices of a people who are gone, it becomes clear that the face carved into that pillar was not just for them, it was for us too. A message across time, saying, we were here, we saw, we felt, we dreamed. Over the years the site has been carefully preserved. Layers of sand and protective coverings shield the ancient stones from the harsh desert wind. But even in preservation, the mystery remains untouched. What compelled a group of hunter-gatherers to spend decades building monuments on this scale? Why carve faces and animals in such careful detail, if not to leave behind something of themselves? Perhaps that's the real story of Kara-Hon-Tepe. It is not about the stones or even the carvings. It's about the first act of recognition, the moment when humans began to see the divine in the mirror of their own reflection. The Viking with the immaculate hair, Denmark's first true face of the north. In the quiet green fields of Denmark, where the sea breeze carries whispers from the distant past, archaeologists uncovered something truly unexpected, a tiny artifact that changed the way we imagine the Vikings forever. It wasn't a sword, or a shield, or even a ship. It was a face, a small, delicately carved face made of bronze, and framed by an immaculate, almost modern hairstyle. This, researchers believe, may be the first known portrait of a Viking. For centuries, the image of the Viking has been shaped by myth. Wild warriors with tangled hair and fierce expressions, storming across the seas in dragon-headed ships. But the discovery of this little bronze face tells a quieter story, one of care, of pride, and of a people who saw beauty, not just in battle, but in the details of who they were. When the archaeologists brushed away the last grains of soil, they saw it, a smooth brow, a calm expression, lips faintly curved, and a hairstyle so precise that even the smallest strands seemed deliberate. It was unlike anything ever found from the Viking Age. Until now, Viking art had always been symbolic, twisting animal forms, runes, interlaced patterns that spoke of gods and destiny. Human faces were rare. To find one this lifelike, this expressive, was to see the Vikings as they saw themselves, not as legends, but as people. The portrait is small enough to fit in the palm of a hand, yet its presence is powerful. Every line of the hair was carved with care. The cheeks are smooth, the eyes deep set. Experts believe it may have been part of a pendant, a brooch, or perhaps the hilt of a ceremonial weapon. But whatever its purpose, it was meant to be seen, admired, remembered, and carried close. Under the soft light of the conservation lab, traces of gold were found on the surface. This means that once, this little face shone, catching firelight, gleaming like sunlight through smoke. Perhaps it was worn by a chieftain, perhaps it was an offering to the gods, or maybe it was the artist's tribute to someone beloved. It is rare for an artifact to feel so human, but this one does. The expression is serene, almost confident. It shows not the rage of a warrior, but the poise of someone aware of their place in the world. And that immaculate hair, that tells us something profound about Viking culture. You see, grooming mattered deeply in Viking society. Despite their reputation as rugged seafarers, historical sources describe them as remarkably clean and well kept. They bathed regularly, combed their hair, and wore their beards trimmed and styled. In the sagas, even heroes and kings are praised for their fine hair and cleanliness. So this tiny portrait, this perfect little head with its neat hair and composed face, isn't vanity, it's identity, it's pride. It shows that even 1,000 years ago, how one presented themselves to the world mattered. Archaeologists who study Viking burials often find combs, tweezers, razors, small personal items that reveal a culture deeply concerned with appearance and ritual. This discovery brings that world into sharper focus. Imagine a longhouse on a winter evening, fire crackling, shadows dancing along carved wooden beams. A chieftain sits surrounded by his kin, the room filled with laughter and song, and on his cloak, catching the firelight, is a small gleaming ornament, this very face shining gold, watching silently as history unfolds. There's something beautiful in that image, a reminder that history isn't just about battles and power. It's about how people saw themselves, and how they wished to be remembered. When you look at this little artifact, you're not just looking at art. You're meeting a person, someone who once lived, breathed, smiled, maybe even stood before a mirror of polished metal and smoothed his hair before stepping into the world. The portrait carries that humanity across the centuries. For a long time, scholars wondered if Vikings ever created realistic depictions of people. Their art was filled with gods and beasts, but never true faces. This find changes that. The detail is too personal to be symbolic. The artist wasn't imagining, they were remembering. Perhaps it was a chieftain whose leadership shaped a village, perhaps a craftsman whose skill inspired awe, or maybe it was someone lost, immortalized in bronze so they would never fade from memory. The soil of Denmark has preserved so much, ships, jewelry, bones, entire villages, but this tiny bronze head stands apart. It's not just an object of beauty, but a message across time. We were here, we cared, we had style, dignity, and identity. The more you look at it, the more it draws you in. The faint smile seems to know something we don't. The eyes, though simple, feel aware. The artist gave life to metal, and that life still lingers. As researchers cleaned it further, they found subtle details that could only have been carved by a master hand. The strands of hair are evenly etched, the contours of the face perfectly balanced. It's astonishing to think that such precision came from a world without modern tools, made instead by patience, by skill, by someone who understood the value of perfection. And yet, for all its refinement, it was found buried in silence, forgotten for centuries, waiting beneath layers of earth. It's humbling to think about what time chooses to keep. Sometimes, whole cities vanish, great monuments crumble, names are lost forever. But a single face, small enough to fit between two fingers, survives. That perhaps is the truest kind of immortality. The Vikings are often remembered for their ships, their raids, their gods. But this discovery shows something else, a civilization that valued detail, craftsmanship, and self-expression, a people who balanced strength with elegance. The artifact is now kept safely in a Danish museum, where visitors often pause and lean close to see it. Some smile, some whisper, some just stare, maybe wondering if that calm expression is looking back. There's a strange comfort in that, knowing that across all those centuries someone carved this with care, and we are still here to appreciate it. Perhaps that's what the Vikings wanted most, to endure. Not just through their battles or sagas, but through the quiet moments, the ones that showed who they truly were. This little portrait, with its perfect hair and serene face, does exactly that. It bridges 1,000 years, reminding us that humanity has always been more alike than different. We still comb our hair, we still admire beauty, we still want to be remembered kindly. And maybe that's why this discovery feels so special, because when you look at that face, you don't see a stranger. You see yourself, reflected through time, shaped by the same need to be seen, to be understood, to belong. The archaeologists who found it describe a moment of stillness, that instant when the soil gave way and the tiny face appeared. For them, it wasn't just another artifact. It was a moment of connection. The man who carved it, the person it represented, and the people who now gaze upon it, all share a single thread across the ages. In the end, it isn't the gold, or the craftsmanship, or even the mystery that makes it unforgettable. It's the quiet humanity it carries, the reminder that history isn't written in grand gestures, but in small, perfect details. 1,000 years ago, someone shaped this face with pride, and today that same face teaches us that even the fiercest cultures had gentleness in them, care, reflection, and art. 3 colossal statues rise from Egypt's sunken city. After 2,000 years, beneath the waves of the Mediterranean, off Egypt's northern coast, lies a city that time itself tried to erase. Heracleion, the city of Hercules, once stood proudly at the mouth of the Nile, guarding Egypt's gateway to the sea. For more than 2,000 years it slept beneath layers of silt and silence, hidden from the world. And then, one day, the sea gave it back. Divers searching the seabed near Alexandria came upon something extraordinary, the curved edge of a colossal stone face staring back at them through the green water. As the divers brushed away the sand, the outline grew clearer, a headdress, a shoulder, then the form of a towering statue lying half buried in the seabed. Soon there was another, and then another, 3 immense statues, one of a pharaoh, one of a queen, and one of a god. Each figure stood over 5 meters tall, carved from black granite, their features calm and untouched, despite 2,000 years beneath the sea. The discovery sent ripples through the world of archaeology, not only for its size and beauty, but because it told a story that had been forgotten since Egypt's ancient age of glory. Heracleion, long thought to be myth, was once Egypt's greatest port before the rise of Alexandria. It was here that traders from Greece, Phoenicia, and the islands of the Mediterranean arrived with their ships full of oil, gold, and grain. It was here that the pharaohs built temples to honor Amun-Gireb, the great god of the Delta. and where priests performed sacred rituals to bless the waters of the Nile. But the city stood upon soft, shifting ground, a web of islands and canals resting on the edge of the sea. Over centuries, earthquakes and floods weakened its foundations. One day, the earth gave way, and the city began to sink. Temple after temple disappeared into the rising waters, streets turned into riverbeds, and slowly the name Heraklion vanished from maps, from memory, and from time. For centuries its story was told only in fragments, in Greek texts that spoke of a mighty port swallowed by the sea. Many dismissed it as legend, until a team led by French marine archaeologist Frank Godillot began to map the seabed at the turn of the century. What they found was breathtaking. A vast underwater landscape of columns, statues, altars and ships perfectly preserved beneath the silt. And now, in the heart of that forgotten city, 3 colossal statues, hidden for millennia, have risen again. When the first statue was carefully lifted from the water, sunlight struck its polished surface for the first time in 20 centuries. Salt water dripped down its stone arms like tears, as though the figure itself was awakening from a long dream. It was the statue of a pharaoh, possibly Nectanebo I, his posture strong, his gaze serene, holding the symbols of divine kingship. Beside him the statue of a queen, her face graceful and poised, wearing the vulture headdress of royalty. And between them, the god Hapi, the spirit of the Nile, bringer of fertility and life. Together they represented the sacred trinity of Egypt's faith, power, grace, and the eternal life of the river. Each statue weighed several tons. Raising them required weeks of work, divers attaching harnesses, engineers calculating lift angles, cranes carefully guiding the stones up through the shimmering water. When they finally broke the surface, the crowd watching from nearby boats fell silent. What they were seeing had not been seen by any human for over 2,000 years. The statues are remarkably preserved. Fine details, the carved eyes, the folds of the linen garments, the royal insignia, are still clear. Traces of gold leaf cling to the surfaces, hinting that these figures once gleamed in the sunlight, shining at the entrance of Heraklion's grand temple. That temple, archaeologists believe, was dedicated to Amun-Gareb and his consort Mut, gods who symbolized divine balance. The temple complex was enormous, with courtyards, sacred pools and canals linking it directly to the Nile. Each year during great festivals, priests carried offerings on boats along those waterways, accompanied by music and chants that echoed across the water. Now all that remains are fragments, pillars lying on the seabed, hieroglyphs half buried in sand, and these statues, standing once more after millennia of silence. Heraklion's rediscovery has changed everything historians knew about ancient Egypt's relationship with the sea. It was not just a land of deserts and pyramids, it was also a maritime civilization, connected deeply with trade, with navigation, and with the wider Mediterranean world. Among the ruins, archaeologists have found coins from Greece, pottery from Cyprus, and jewelry made from materials brought from as far as the Levant. This was a city alive with exchange, not only of goods but of ideas, languages and faiths. But perhaps the most haunting thing about Heraklion is its silence. When divers descend into its ruins, the sound fades away. The beams of their lights fall across fallen statues, offering tables, and the remains of ships still anchored in place. It feels less like a ruin, and more like a city frozen in time, as though it might awaken if you listen long enough. The sea, in its strange way, preserved everything. The mud that buried the city also protected it, sealing it from decay. It kept the stones smooth, the carvings sharp, the temples intact. And now, centuries later, the same sea returns what it once took. The statues will soon be displayed in Egypt's Maritime Museum in Alexandria. There, under controlled light, visitors will be able to stand before the faces of the pharaoh, the queen, and the god, and see the exact same expressions that priests and sailors once saw before departing into the open waters. There's something deeply human in that connection, that across thousands of years, across empires and languages, we still feel wonder at the same sight. Stone shaped by hands long gone, meant to honor something greater than ourselves. Every mark on those statues carries a story. Every chipped edge and faded line tells of time, of water, of patience. Heraklion reminds us that history is not lost, only waiting to be found again. The city may have fallen, but its voice still echoes through the waves, through the divers who explore its depths, through the quiet awe of those who see its relics rise once more. To think that somewhere out there, beneath the same waters, other temples still rest, untouched, unseen, is almost dreamlike. More statues may still lie beneath the seabed, their faces hidden, their stories sealed in the silence of the sea. And perhaps in the years to come, the waves will give them back too. For now the 3 colossal statues stand as guardians, not just of Egypt's past, but of our shared memory. They remind us that nothing truly disappears, it only sleeps, waiting for the right moment to return. Tidal forces shaped the rise of Sumer, the world's first urban civilization, in the heart of ancient Mesopotamia, where the Tigris and Euphrates rivers carved their way through the dry plains, something remarkable was unfolding. Around 6,000 years ago, this fertile land, known later as Sumer, became home to what historians call the world's first true urban civilization. But new research now suggests that the key to Sumer's rise wasn't just fertile soil or human ingenuity, it was the pull of the tides. Yes, the same invisible forces that move the oceans today may have shaped the very birth of civilization itself. The story begins in southern Mesopotamia, a vast landscape that once shimmered with wetlands and lagoons. Here, the early Sumerians built their first settlements, surrounded by reeds, canals, and shimmering pools of brackish water. They learned to tame the land, digging irrigation channels, building embankments, and turning marshes into farmland. But these early city builders soon realized something extraordinary. The water didn't flow the same way every day. Twice each day, the tides pushed seawater deep inland, raising the river levels and flooding their canals. And as the tides retreated, they pulled the water, and with it vital silt and nutrients, back toward the sea. This rhythmic breathing of the earth created a natural irrigation cycle, unlike anywhere else on the planet. Archaeologists now believe these tidal patterns were more than a background feature. They may have dictated where the Sumerians built their cities, how they managed water, and even when they planted their crops. The city of Eridu, one of the earliest known urban centers, offers clues. It was built on land that was once part of an ancient tidal estuary, near the edge of the Persian Gulf. Its temples, canals, and terraces followed a rhythm that seems to echo the movement of water. Later cities, Ur, Lagash, and Uruk, rose along similar coastlines, all shaped by the slow, steady push and pull of the sea. Imagine the Sumerian farmers standing on the muddy banks at dusk, watching the tides rise. They saw their canals fill as if by divine will, bringing life to their crops. To them, this wasn't science, it was the work of the gods, and in their temples they gave thanks to Enki, the god of water and creation, who they believed controlled the flow of the rivers and the sea. But as the centuries passed, the earth changed. The climate grew warmer, sea levels rose, and the coastline began to shift northward. What was once coastal became inland, the ancient ports and estuaries turned into dry plains, and the tides that had once nourished their fields began to fade away. This change wasn't sudden, it was slow, almost imperceptible, but it transformed everything. The Sumerians had to dig deeper canals and build longer irrigation systems to reach the retreating waters. In time, their dependence on these systems grew, and managing water became a central part of their civilization. Bureaucracy, writing, mathematics, all may have grown out of this need to control the rhythm that nature once provided for free. Cuneiform tablets from the ancient city of Uruk record complex calculations for water rations, canal maintenance, and crop yields. The same civilization that gave the world writing, law, and architecture may have been driven at its core by the cycle of the tides. Modern scientists studying sediment cores from southern Iraq have found clear traces of tidal influences. Layers of clay and sand alternate in a pattern that perfectly matches lunar cycles. These layers suggest that ancient Mesopotamian floodplains were once part of a great tidal delta, where the ocean's influence reached hundreds of kilometers inland. It's a humbling thought that the moon, gently pulling at the waters of Earth, may have set in motion the birth of civilization. The Sumerians might not have understood the cosmic mechanics behind the tides, but they felt them, saw them, and built their lives around them. They celebrated the gods of water, honored the rivers, and aligned their temples to the flow of nature itself. When you walk through the ruins of Ur today, the silence is profound. The ziggurat stands tall under the desert sun, and the wind carries whispers of the past through the broken walls. The land is dry now, cracked and pale, but once it was alive with motion. You can almost imagine the shimmer of water, the sound of workers opening canals, and the slow rise of the tide that connected them to the distant sea. The story of Sumer is not just the story of invention, it's a story of balance, between water and land, between humanity and nature, between the heavens and the earth. It reminds us that progress often begins not with conquest, but with harmony. As the tides shaped their cities, they also shaped their souls. The Sumerians learned that life moves in cycles, that every flood brings renewal, and every ebb brings reflection. And though their cities have turned to dust, that rhythm continues. The moon still pulls at our oceans, just as it did 6,000 years ago, whispering the same ancient rhythm that gave birth to the world's first civilization. And perhaps, somewhere deep within us, that rhythm still beats the quiet pulse of the tide. The same force that built the first cities, wrote the first words, and taught humanity how to live with the earth, not against it. Digital restoration of Siberian death masks provides a far less spooky look. In the cold, endless reaches of Siberia, where the wind sweeps across frozen plains and silence stretches for miles, ancient secrets have slept for thousands of years beneath the permafrost. For archaeologists, these lands are like a vast time capsule, preserving not only tools and bones, but fragments of lost souls and their rituals. Among the most mysterious discoveries ever unearthed here were the Siberian death masks, haunting, metallic faces that once stared blankly from ancient graves. When they were first found decades ago, these masks sent shivers down the spines of researchers and viewers alike. They were made of bronze, copper, and even delicate sheets of gold, shaped into human-like visages that seemed to float above the skeletal remains. The faces were expressionless, smooth, and almost too perfect, as if someone had tried to capture not just a likeness, but a presence. Over the years, their hollow eyes and cold gleam earned them a chilling reputation. Many thought they were meant to terrify, or perhaps to guard the dead from something even more fearsome. But now, in the age of digital archaeology, scientists have looked again, not through the eyes of fear, but through the lens of technology. Using advanced 3D scanning, digital reconstruction, and imaging techniques, a team of researchers in Siberia decided to digitally restore the masks, peeling back centuries of corrosion and distortion to reveal what they may have looked like when they were first made. And what they found was astonishing. Gone were the eerie, ghostly expressions that once seemed to belong in nightmares. Instead, what emerged were soft human faces, serene, calm, and even beautiful. The features were not menacing, but gentle. The eyes were not hollow, but expressive. The metal itself had likely once been polished to a warm sheen, glowing faintly in the torchlight of burial rituals. This revelation completely changed how scholars saw the ancient Siberian cultures that made these masks. They were no longer viewed as distant, cold people obsessed with death. Instead, they appeared as artists and visionaries who believed that the face, even after death, could hold meaning, identity, and perhaps a bridge to eternity. The masks belonged to a people known as the Tagar culture, who lived in southern Siberia around 2,500 years ago. They were skilled metalworkers, part of the broader Scythian world that stretched across the Eurasian steppe. These were warriors, herders, and traders, but also spiritual craftsmen who treated burial as an art. Their cemeteries, filled with weapons, ornaments, and these remarkable masks, spoke of a deep connection between life, death, and transformation. For years, archaeologists had assumed that the masks were funerary armor, meant to protect the spirit. But the new digital reconstructions tell another story. The designs, once seen as grim, may have been symbols of peace and remembrance. Some masks even showed faint traces of color and decoration, suggesting they might have once been painted in gentle tones. The metallic surface would have shimmered in candlelight, a reflection perhaps of the living soul's eternal glow. Through this modern technology, every small detail becomes a message from the past. The fine engravings on the cheeks, the symmetry of the lips, the careful shaping of the brow, they show patience, craftsmanship, and reverence. These were not hurried creations, they were deeply personal tributes, likely made for loved ones. Imagine for a moment, standing in that ancient burial ground under the wide Siberian sky. The snow crunches underfoot, the air so cold it stings your breath. You step into a small pit, lined with stones, and there, resting among animal bones and bronze ornaments, lies a human face, not decayed or broken, but glowing faintly beneath layers of frost and earth. It's a hauntingly human moment, the realization that even thousands of years ago, people still longed to preserve the faces of those they loved. As scientists reconstructed these masks digitally, they also uncovered something else, clues about cultural exchange. Similar funerary masks have been found as far away as Central Asia and parts of Eastern Europe. This suggests that ancient Siberian tribes were not isolated wanderers, but part of a vast network of interaction, sharing ideas, beliefs, and technology across incredible distances. The digital project even revealed subtle patterns linking these masks to early rituals of the afterlife. Each one, though different in design, carried a consistent theme: the preservation of the self beyond death. Some were made of copper alloy, others of gold leaf, some of clay, but all carried the same silent promise that death was not an end, only a passage. The transformation from eerie artifact to gentle memorial has changed the way we see these people. What once appeared frightening is now profoundly human. Through modern technology, the ghosts of the past become clearer, kinder, and more relatable. For the researchers, it's been more than just an academic project. It's been a rediscovery of empathy across time. By restoring these ancient faces, they are also restoring the humanity behind them. The masks are no longer cold symbols of death, but warm reflections of memory, love, and belief. And as the reconstructed faces gaze softly from the screens of today's world, it's hard not to feel that we're being watched, not by spirits seeking rest, but by ancestors reminding us of something we too often forget: that art, love, and remembrance are eternal. Victory celebration pits reveal 6,300-year-old war horrors in the rolling plains of prehistoric Europe, where rivers carve gentle curves through fertile land and forests whisper quietly to the wind. Archaeologists have uncovered a secret long buried beneath the soil. This secret is a silent witness to events that took place more than 6 millennia ago, when humans fought, celebrated, and mourned in ways we are only beginning to understand. These discoveries, known as the victory celebration pits, are unlike anything found before. At first glance, they might appear as simple depressions in the earth, holes dug for storage, or perhaps waste pits, but careful excavation reveals something far more complex and harrowing. Inside these pits, archaeologists have found the remains of entire communities, evidence of both triumph and tragedy. The skeletons, carefully laid and sometimes haphazardly thrown, tell a story of conflict, survival, and ritual. The first such pits were discovered after painstaking survey and mapping of ancient settlements. Archaeologists noticed patterns emerging, large circular depressions, often near ceremonial or fortified areas, containing layers of earth interspersed with charcoal, broken pottery, and bones. Upon closer inspection, it became clear that these were not ordinary refuse sites. The bones belonged mostly to young men, and in some cases women and children, their remains showing signs of violent injuries. Cuts, fractures, and other marks revealed the intensity of the battles these people had endured. It seems that these pits were part of a ritualized victory ceremony. After a battle, the victorious group would gather their fallen enemies and lay them within these depressions. Around the edges, ceremonial fires were lit, and offerings such as pottery, tools, and ornaments were placed carefully. The practice served both as a commemoration of the battle and a demonstration of power. The pits were a solemn, almost sacred space, a record of human struggle, triumph, and the harsh realities of early society. Analysis of the bones provides remarkable insight. Using modern forensic techniques, researchers can tell the age, health, and even the diet of these individuals. Some show signs of prior injuries, healed fractures, or nutritional stress, revealing lives that were difficult and often short. Others appear to have been captured and executed swiftly. Their placement in the pit, a calculated act meant to convey a message to those who survived. What is striking about the victory celebration pits is not only the brutality of their use, but also the care with which they were maintained. The bodies were not simply discarded, they were arranged, often in circular patterns, suggesting a symbolic significance. The placement of pottery or tools beside certain skeletons might indicate status or role within the defeated community. Each layer of earth tells a story of a single battle, a single moment in time, preserved for thousands of years beneath the grass and soil. The study of these pits has also revealed insights into the social and political structures of the time. The communities that created them were organized and strategic. They were capable of coordinating large groups, planning complex ceremonies, and sustaining settlements over generations. Their victories were not random, they were the result of tactics, skill, and the ability to mobilize and protect resources. As you imagine standing at the edge of one of these pits today, the wind brushing across the plain, it is possible to feel the weight of history. The silence is heavy but not empty. Every stone, every shard of pottery, every fragment of bone, carries a story of lives intertwined by conflict, of people who lived and died in ways we are only beginning to understand. Even now, the pits continue to speak. Archaeologists carefully document each layer, each artifact, preserving the narrative of events that occurred 6,300 years ago. This work allows us to reconstruct, not just battles, but the human experience, fear, courage, loss, and the rituals through which early societies sought to make sense of life and death. The victory celebration pits remind us that even in the most distant past, humans were complex beings. They loved, they fought, they mourned, and they remembered. Their actions preserved in earth and bone, echo across millennia, connecting us to a world that seems foreign and yet profoundly familiar. And so, as you listen to the story of these ancient battlefields, let your mind drift gently across the plains of Europe, imagining the flickering flames of ceremonial fires, the quiet solemnity of the pits, and the lives that once moved, struggled, and persevered in ways both brutal and beautiful. Here, history does not speak in grand monuments or mighty kings, but in the fragile, enduring traces of ordinary lives touched by extraordinary events. Even after thousands of years, these pits offer a window into human resilience and ritual, reminding us that every act, every life, leaves a trace, and that the stories of the past are never truly lost. Through this discovery, the ancient world becomes a little closer, its people more human, their struggles more tangible, and as the cold Siberian wind sweeps across the plains today, it carries whispers from the past, stories of victories, losses, and the complex tapestry of human experience that has shaped the world we inherit. The victory celebration pits are not simply archaeological finds, they are lessons in humanity, invitations to reflect on life, mortality, and memory, captured in earth and bone for those willing to listen and learn. Stalagmites, pinpoint major cause of the Maya apocalypse. Deep within the limestone caves of Central America, where the air is cool and damp, stalagmites rise slowly from the cave floor, like frozen fingers reaching for the unseen ceiling above. For thousands of years, these silent formations have grown, layer by layer, drop by drop, recording in their crystalline structures the rhythms of the earth, rainfall, drought, and climate changes that shape the world outside. It is within these quiet, dark caves that modern science has found some of the clearest evidence of a dramatic shift in human history. The Maya civilization, known for its towering pyramids, intricate calendars, and vast cities, did not disappear without reason. The question of what caused their sudden decline has puzzled historians and archaeologists for centuries. Was it war, disease, famine, or a collapse of political power? Recent research suggests that the answer may lie in the very bones of the earth itself, the stalagmites, silently recording the passage of time. By studying the layers of these formations, scientists have been able to reconstruct past climate patterns with remarkable precision. Each mineral layer tells a story, a season of rain, a dry spell, a shift in humidity. Over time, a pattern emerged, one that coincided with the decline of Maya cities in the 9th century CE. These records revealed a series of severe, prolonged droughts, lasting decades in some cases. Rivers shrank, crops failed, and the very lifeblood of the cities began to disappear. Imagine the Maya farmers tending their fields along the once fertile riverbanks, the soil rich and full of promise. Year after year, they planted maize, beans, and squash, relying on predictable rains and a stable climate. Then slowly the rains became erratic. Crops that had thrived for generations began to fail. Wells and reservoirs dried. People may have watched helplessly as the land that had nourished their civilization turned against them. But the stalagmites tell more than just the story of drought. They also reveal the resilience of the Maya, their attempts to adapt, to survive. Evidence of irrigation systems, terraced fields, and water management strategies shows a people deeply attuned to their environment, yet ultimately overwhelmed by forces beyond their control. The stalagmites, untouched and impartial, bear silent witness to this struggle, recording both hardship and adaptation in their mineral layers. The implications of this discovery extend beyond archaeology. By linking precise climatic data with the archaeological record, scientists can better understand how environmental stress shaped societies, influenced migrations, and altered political structures. The Maya were not defeated by invaders alone, nor by internal strife. The earth itself played a decisive role in their story. As you imagine standing in one of these caves, the cool air brushing against your skin, the faint echo of dripping water around you, it becomes easier to understand the magnitude of this revelation. The stalagmites rise steadily, oblivious to human life above, yet their slow, deliberate growth preserves a record of triumphs and tragedies, of civilizations that rose and fell in harmony with nature's rhythms. For the Maya, these droughts would have disrupted every aspect of life. Food scarcity leads to social tension. Competition for water sparks conflicts. Rituals and ceremonies, once central to daily existence, may have shifted as people sought to appease gods and restore balance. Leaders would have struggled to maintain control, their authority challenged by forces beyond human comprehension. Cities once vibrant with trade, art, and ceremony began to empty, their stone streets growing quiet, their temples abandoned. The stalagmites continue to grow today, layer by layer, drop by drop, indifferent to the passage of centuries and the lives that rise and fall above. They are a natural archive, a testament to the intertwined fates of humans and the environment. Through them we can read the story of the Maya apocalypse with a clarity that few other records could provide. And so in the quiet of the cave, with only the sound of water echoing softly against stone, it is possible to reflect on the fragility and resilience of human civilization. The Maya were brilliant, resourceful, and innovative, yet their fate reminds us that even the greatest societies are subject to the rhythms of the natural world. The stalagmites, slow and patient, carry this lesson forward, crystallizing it for all who are willing to listen. Through their ancient growth, we understand not just the end of a civilization, but the profound connection between humans and the earth, a connection that persists to this day. And as the light of the outside world fades, and the mind drifts into calm reflection, it is easy to imagine the Maya walking through their cities one last time. The rivers low, the sky parched, yet leaving behind a legacy that will echo through millennia, preserved in stone, in memory, and now, in stalagmites. AI reveals new secrets of the Nazca. High above the arid plains of southern Peru, the Nazca lines stretch across the desert floor, vast and enigmatic, etched into the earth thousands of years ago. Some take the shape of animals, others of geometric patterns, and a few remain abstract, their meanings still unknown. For centuries, scholars, archaeologists, and travelers have marveled at these massive creations, wondering how they were made, why they were made, and what secrets they might hold. The Nazca civilization, flourishing between 200 BCE and 600 CE, remains one of history's more mysterious cultures. They built cities, canals, and intricate irrigation systems to thrive in an otherwise unforgiving desert environment. Yet it is the lines themselves that continue to capture our imagination. Walking among them today, one feels small, dwarfed by the enormity of their scale, and the precision with which they were executed. In recent years, artificial intelligence has begun to unlock insights into these desert masterpieces. Using satellite imagery, machine learning, and pattern recognition, researchers can now analyze the lines in ways previously unimaginable. AI can detect connections between figures, measure proportions with extraordinary accuracy, and even identify subtle features invisible to the human eye. Through these tools, patterns are emerging that hint at a deeper understanding of Nazca society, their beliefs, and their relationship with the natural world. It appears that some of the shapes may not be random or solely symbolic. Instead, they could encode astronomical information, marking solstices, equinoxes, or the cycles of planets and stars. Others may map water sources, linking sacred imagery to vital resources in the desert. There are indications that the lines may have guided rituals, directing processions or ceremonial activities across the plains. AI has even revealed previously unseen microlines, smaller etchings intertwined with the larger figures, suggesting a complexity that rivals the most sophisticated designs of any ancient culture. Imagine standing on the edge of one of these enormous figures, the desert wind brushing across your face, the sun casting long shadows over the barren landscape. For the people who carved them, the lines may have been sacred pathways, a way to communicate with their gods, or a reflection of their understanding of the world above and below. The sheer effort required to create such precise forms, visible only from the air or the surrounding hills, speaks to a society deeply invested in both practicality and spirituality. AI is not just helping us read the shapes, it is also uncovering anomalies that challenge previous assumptions. Certain figures appear aligned in ways that suggest intentional connections across vast distances. Other markings seem to form grids or networks, hinting at maps or guides. Even the placement of the lines relative to mountains, rivers, and the desert floor appears deliberate, pointing toward an advanced understanding of geography and the environment. Yet, even with these technological insights, the Nazca lines retain their mystery. The culture that made them left few written records. Many of their cities have been lost to time. The desert itself is both preserver and destroyer, protecting the lines in some areas while eroding others. AI can reveal patterns, but it cannot tell us everything about the meaning behind each curve, each figure, each painstakingly carved groove. That knowledge remains locked in the minds of the Nazca people who once walked these lands, their intentions obscured by centuries. As you imagine drifting across the lines from above, the desert sprawling endlessly beneath, it is possible to sense the quiet brilliance of a civilization that understood the importance of harmony, with the land, with water, with the sky. The Nazca lines were not mere decoration, they were living records of devotion, of knowledge, and perhaps even of hope, etched into the earth to be seen by those who could appreciate them. The AI's revelations remind us that human ingenuity and curiosity are timeless. The Nazca may have lived over a millennium ago, but their desire to understand their world, to leave a mark, and to communicate across generations echoes in every algorithm, every data point, and every new discovery. The lines themselves, vast and silent, continue to guide us, guiding researchers, guiding drones, guiding our imagination toward possibilities we are only beginning to comprehend. In the soft light of the desert dawn, the Nazca lines shimmer, their shadows shifting slowly as the sun rises. The figures, geometric and animal alike, hold stories, rituals, and secrets that speak across time. AI helps us read them, but the deeper meaning, the thoughts and intentions of those who carved them, invites reflection, curiosity, and quiet wonder. Through these revelations, we are reminded of the connection between humans and the earth, the blending of science and history, and the endless pursuit of understanding. The Nazca lines are not simply ancient drawings, they are a dialogue, a conversation across centuries, whispering their secrets to anyone patient enough to listen. And now, as we gaze upon these desert canvases, guided by the insights of modern technology, we are participants in that conversation, explorers of knowledge, and witnesses to the genius of a people who, even without writing, communicated across the ages. The Nazca lines remain one of the greatest enigmas of the ancient world, yet with every discovery, every AI insight, every careful analysis, we are drawn closer to understanding. And in that quiet, reflective space, it becomes clear that the past is not dead. It is alive, breathing in the patterns of the earth, and inviting us to see, to wonder, and perhaps to dream. World's first city at Catalhuyuk was a matriarchy, almost 10,000 years ago, on a gently rising plain in what is now central Turkey. Nearly 10,000 years ago, a city began to take shape. Catalhuyuk, one of the earliest urban centers known to humanity, stretches across the imagination as much as it does across the land. Its densely packed houses, built closely together without streets, create a labyrinth of living spaces, each one filled with the traces of daily life, work, and ritual. Walking through the remains today, it is easy to feel the pulse of a society that existed so long ago, yet whose presence still whispers through the walls, the floors, and the hearths left behind. What is remarkable about Catalhuyuk is not merely its age, but the evidence suggesting a society in which women held positions of significant importance. Archaeologists studying burial patterns, household artifacts, and figurines have pieced together a picture of a community where women were central to religious, social, and perhaps political life. Clay figurines, often interpreted as goddesses or symbolic representations of female power, are found in abundance, carefully placed in homes, shrines, and ceremonial spaces. They speak to a reverence for the feminine, a recognition of the cycles of life, and the nurturing roles that sustain the community across generations. As we walk through the reconstructed layout of Catalhuyuk, it becomes clear that this was a place of complexity and intimacy. Roofs served as pathways, connecting homes and facilitating communication and trade. Walls are decorated with murals, some depicting hunting scenes, others enigmatic symbols that may have conveyed spiritual or communal messages. Every space seems to reflect a balance between survival and meaning, between the practical and the sacred. Burials provide some of the most compelling evidence for a society structured around matriarchal influence. Women and men are interred with equal care, but certain graves show prominence, adorned with jewelry, animal bones, and ceremonial objects, suggesting roles of spiritual or communal leadership. The presence of large numbers of female figurines, combined with these burial practices, leads scholars to propose that Catalhuyuk may have functioned as one of the earliest examples of a society organized around female guidance, where wisdom, fertility, and ritual authority were highly valued. Life here would have been deeply connected to the land. The people farmed wheat and barley, herded animals, and gathered wild resources. Tools made from obsidian and bone have been found throughout the site, demonstrating remarkable skill in crafting and ingenuity. Cooking, weaving, and the care of children formed the rhythm of daily life, while ritual spaces offered moments of reflection, remembrance, and devotion. One can imagine a quiet evening in Catalhuyuk, the scent of hearth fires drifting through homes, the muted chatter of families, and the steady work of those preparing food, maintaining homes, and tending to their spiritual obligations. The city itself seems to encourage closeness. The lack of streets and the interconnectedness of rooftops suggest a society built on cooperation, communication, and interdependence. Neighbors would have been familiar with each other's routines, with shared responsibilities and collective decision-making. This proximity may have reinforced the role of women, whose presence was central not just in households but in the governance of social and ceremonial life. Art, in the form of wall paintings, reliefs, and figurines, reflects the complexity of human thought at Catalhuyuk. Some murals depict hunting scenes with men and animals, while others emphasize fertility, community, and spiritual symbolism, often highlighting female figures. These artistic choices reveal an attention to balance, to storytelling, and to the celebration of both survival and identity. With each excavation, new insights continue to emerge. The houses, though seemingly simple, reveal layers of reconstruction, repair, and adaptation over generations. Floors are often plastered and repainted, walls adorned with symbols, and storage spaces carefully organized. Every detail conveys a story of resilience, of people navigating the challenges of climate, food production, and social cohesion in a world that was constantly changing. The people of Catalhuyuk were not isolated. Trade networks reached beyond the immediate region, bringing in materials such as obsidian, shells, and pigments. These exchanges reflect a society that was aware of the wider world, one that valued resources, communication, and the knowledge carried across distances. It is through these interactions that the city maintained its vitality, combining tradition with adaptation in a delicate balance. Even today, Catalhuyuk holds the power to inspire. Standing on its ancient rooftops, imagining the lives of those who walked the same paths millennia ago, one feels a connection across time. The structures, the artifacts, and the silent spaces speak not just of survival, but of identity, community, and the enduring influence of women in shaping the human story. Through careful study, we learn that the city was more than just a collection of homes. It was a living organism, a society organized around shared values and beliefs. And at its heart, the evidence of matriarchal influence reminds us that human history is rich and diverse, often challenging modern assumptions about gender, power, and societal roles. As we explore the remains of Catalhuyuk, we are invited to imagine a morning in the city, the sun rising over flat rooftops, children playing among the homes, women preparing ritual spaces and overseeing the tasks of the day, men tending crops and crafting tools, and the community moving as one through the rhythms of life. The city embodies the ingenuity, cooperation, and spiritual depth of its people, offering a glimpse into the earliest forms of organized human civilization. Even with all we have uncovered, mysteries remain. The meanings behind certain murals, the exact function of shrines, and the full extent of social organization are still subjects of ongoing research. Yet every discovery, every careful analysis, deepens our understanding of humanity's capacity for creativity, adaptation, and reverence. In this ancient city nearly 10,000 years ago, we see the roots of human ingenuity, the importance of community, and the subtle but powerful influence of women as central figures in society. Catalhuyuk stands as a testament to our enduring fascination with the past, inviting us to listen, reflect, and imagine the lives of those who built the foundations of civilization. Through the quiet remnants of homes, shrines, and artifacts, we are reminded that history is not only written in grand monuments but also in the daily lives of ordinary people, their decisions, their relationships, and their dreams. In every painted wall, in every buried object, there is a story waiting to be told, a whisper from the past reaching across millennia, asking us to remember, to learn, and to appreciate the depth of human experience. And so Catalhuyuk continues to speak, softly, patiently, offering insight into the first city, its people, and the ways in which human society began to take shape, guided in part by the wisdom and influence of women who lived, loved, and shaped the rhythms of daily life so many thousands of years ago. Ancient footprints reveal peopling of the Americas did occur 23,000 years ago. In a quiet stretch of what is now New Mexico, a discovery was made that reshapes our understanding of human history in the Americas. Beneath layers of sediment, carefully preserved by time and nature, scientists uncovered a series of footprints, human footprints, frozen in the earth for more than 23,000 years. These marks, pressed into the soft mud by individuals long gone, serve as a silent testament to the earliest journeys of people into the vast and untamed landscapes of the Western Hemisphere. Imagine the scene so long ago, an open expanse, a river winding gently through valleys, the soft murmur of wind brushing over grasses, and the careful steps of a group of humans moving cautiously across the terrain. Their feet press into damp earth, leaving behind impressions that will endure for millennia, long after the people themselves have vanished into memory. Each footprint tells a story, not just of movement, but of intention, survival, and connection to a new land filled with both challenge and promise. Archaeologists examining the site noted the meticulous preservation of these prints. The layers of sediment, combined with the unique chemical composition of the soil, acted like a time capsule. The footprints were not isolated. They formed trails, suggesting repeated passage, and possibly movement within a family or small group. Alongside the human tracks, traces of animals hint at the ecosystem in which these early inhabitants lived. Bison, mammoths, and other creatures roam nearby, offering both sustenance and danger. The implications of these findings are profound. Until now, many theories about the peopling of the Americas suggested that humans arrived much later, perhaps 15,000 years ago, migrating across frozen land bridges or along coastal routes. These footprints challenge that timeline, pushing back the arrival of humans by thousands of years, and painting a picture of a continent already explored and inhabited far earlier than previously imagined. By studying the depth, spacing, and size of the footprints, researchers can infer the age, stature, and even some aspects of behavior of the individuals who left them. Small prints suggest children were present, while larger ones indicate adults, perhaps carrying tools or foraging for food. The trail conveys movement and interaction, hinting at a society that, even in its earliest stages, was organized and purposeful. As we reflect on these ancient footsteps, it is important to consider the landscape itself. The terrain would have been both familiar and foreign. Rivers that now flow differently, forests that have long since changed, and climate patterns that shape the challenges of daily survival. The humans who navigated these lands were resilient, attentive, and remarkably adaptive, learning to thrive in environments that demanded careful observation and skillful response. Each footprint is also a link to the intangible aspects of life: decision-making, curiosity, and the human drive to explore. Why did these people venture into new territories? What motivated their movement across vast plains and through unknown valleys? Perhaps it was the pursuit of food, the search for safety, or simply the innate desire to know the land and their place within it. Whatever the reason, the footprints offer a glimpse into the courage and determination of early humans in the Americas. The footprints, preserved in silence for thousands of years, allow modern observers to connect with individuals whose voices and stories are otherwise lost. Walking through the site today, one can sense the rhythm of life so long ago: the careful steps, the pauses, the interactions with the environment, and the presence of a small but resilient community moving together through a challenging world. Modern technology has helped bring these ancient marks to life. High-resolution scanning, 3D modeling, and sediment analysis allow scientists to visualize the footprints in incredible detail. Researchers can study gait patterns, pressure points, and subtle nuances that speak to how these humans walked, what they carried, and even how they may have interacted socially. It is as if time itself has offered a window into a day, a moment, a movement that occurred more than 23,000 years ago. These discoveries also remind us that history is not a static record of dates and names. Instead, it is a living, breathing narrative, constantly revised and enriched by new findings. The footprints challenge assumptions, provoke questions, and invite us to reconsider the resilience, adaptability, and ingenuity of our ancestors. As we contemplate the significance of this site, there is a quiet wonder in imagining the footsteps themselves. Each print is a silent message from the past, a connection between us and the first humans to navigate these lands. They remind us that every journey begins with a step, and that even the smallest actions, pressed into the earth, can endure through millennia to tell a story of discovery, survival, and exploration. In the stillness of the archaeological site, one can almost hear the echoes of these early humans, the soft crunch of earth beneath their feet, the distant calls of animals, the wind carrying whispers of a world that was, and still is, waiting to be understood. The peopling of the Americas is not merely a chapter in history. It is a testament to human curiosity, courage, and the endless desire to explore new frontiers. Through the careful study of these footprints, we are reminded that even in the absence of written records, the earth itself preserves memory. Every layer of soil, every impression, every subtle contour, holds information about those who walked before us. And while many questions remain unanswered about their daily lives, their culture, and their ultimate fate, the footprints provide a tangible, enduring link to a time when the continent was first discovered, first navigated, and first called home by the humans who would shape its future. The discovery invites reflection, not only on the remarkable journey of early humans, but also on the mysteries that remain buried beneath the soil. It encourages us to look closely, to tread lightly, and to listen to the quiet stories that the earth preserves, waiting patiently to reveal them to those who seek understanding. And so these ancient footprints, frozen in time for 23,000 years, continue to speak. They tell of migration, of survival, of community, and of the enduring human spirit. In every step we see the courage of the first peoples of the Americas, and in every impression, we are reminded that history is not merely written in stone or text, but is pressed into the very ground beneath our feet, waiting for us to notice, to learn, and to remember. Cone-headed skull of 6,200-year-old girl unearthed in Iran. In the rolling hills and plains of what is now Iran, an extraordinary discovery came to light. A small, fragile skull of a girl, more than 6,000 years old, shaped in a way that immediately captures attention. Unlike the typical rounded form of human skulls, this one had a distinctive elongated shape, tapering gently toward the top, as if the child had been born with a crown that set her apart from others of her age. Archaeologists first encountered the skull during an excavation of an ancient settlement, carefully removing layers of soil and debris that had protected it for millennia. The delicate bone, though weathered by time, remained remarkably intact, allowing researchers to examine the form and features in precise detail. It was clear that this was no ordinary find. The skull belonged to a young girl, estimated to be around 7 or 8 years old at the time of her death, yet her remains tell a story that continues to puzzle scientists today. The unusual shape of the skull has sparked numerous theories. Some suggest that it may have been naturally occurring, a rare variation in human development, while others propose cultural practices, such as cranial shaping, a tradition known in some ancient civilizations where bindings or tools were used to elongate the head as a sign of status, identity, or spiritual significance. Yet even with these possibilities, no definitive explanation has been established. The mystery persists, and the skull stands as a silent enigma from a distant past. Imagine the scene so long ago, a small village, the daily rhythm of life, families tending to fields, children playing, and among them this young girl. Her world would have been filled with the textures and sounds of the Neolithic era, the soft rustle of reeds along riverbanks, the distant call of animals, the murmur of human voices shaping a fledgling society. She would have been part of a community, learning to farm, to create tools, and to establish ways of life that would endure for generations. The girl's burial also offers insight into how she was regarded by her people. The remains were found alongside simple artifacts, perhaps tokens of her family's care, indicating that she was placed in the earth with attention and ceremony. Though the precise rituals remain unknown, the respect afforded to her in death speaks to a recognition of her presence and value within her community. Modern techniques allow scientists to learn more about her life than ever before. Through detailed analysis, they can examine the structure of her bones, assess health indicators, and even explore aspects of her diet and environment. Every microscopic detail tells a story of nourishment, growth, and the challenges faced by a child in a world shaped by survival and ingenuity. The elongated shape of the skull adds layers of complexity to her story. It is a reminder that ancient human societies were diverse, and that their practices and genetics could produce forms we might find unusual today. Anthropologists study this with care, considering the broader context of Neolithic Iran, where early civilizations were experimenting with agriculture, settlement, and cultural identity, laying the foundations for future societies. In the quiet of the excavation, as the team carefully documented and preserved the skull, there was a sense of awe. Here was a child who lived over 6 millennia ago, whose physical form carries questions that challenge our understanding of human history. And yet, despite the unanswered questions, the discovery also connects us to her in a deeply human way. We are reminded of the universality of childhood, the play, the learning, the growth, and the fragility that exists across all ages and eras. The cone-headed skull has also sparked wider discussions about early human variation, health, and cultural practices. Comparative studies with other skeletal remains in the region help researchers piece together patterns and anomalies, while advanced imaging techniques provide digital reconstructions that allow us to envision her life more vividly. Each piece of evidence adds depth to the story, yet the central mystery, why her skull is shaped as it is, remains compelling and unresolved. Consider for a moment the perspective of the girl herself. She lived in a time without writing, without the technologies we take for granted, and yet her existence was shaped by the world around her. Her experiences, the people she knew, the landscapes she walked, all of it is encoded in her remains, whispering to us across thousands of years. She is a bridge between the distant past and the present, a reminder that history is not only grand monuments or royal figures, but also ordinary lives, preserved through the smallest details. As we examine this skull, it is tempting to project ideas or stories onto her life, to imagine the society she was part of, the games she might have played, the people who watched over her, and the beliefs that shaped how she was treated in life and in death. Every question leads to another, every detail invites reflection, and the calm observation of her remains becomes an exercise in patience and wonder. The elongated skull of this young girl stands as a symbol of human diversity, the complexities of ancient life, and the enduring mysteries that archaeology brings to light. It reminds us that even the smallest and most fragile artifacts, or in this case, a single human skull, can open doors to profound questions about who we are, where we came from, and the many forms that humanity has taken over time. In the stillness of the archaeological site, the soil around her whispers history. Each grain, each fragment, carries the story of a child who lived and died in a world so distant from our own, yet intimately human. By studying her, we connect with a life long gone, gaining insight into the ingenuity, culture, and complexity of early human societies. Though scientists may never fully answer why her skull was shaped in this way, the discovery itself is invaluable. It encourages ongoing exploration, careful study, and a deep appreciation for the subtle and remarkable diversity of the human story. Every step of the research is a quiet dialogue between the present and the past, revealing not only facts but also the wonder of discovery. And so, this small cone-headed girl from ancient Iran continues to speak through time. Her skull, preserved for over 6,000 years, is a testament to the resilience of life, the enduring mysteries of human development, and the quiet, profound stories hidden beneath the earth, waiting for those who will look closely enough to see, listen carefully enough to hear, and reflect patiently enough to imagine the world she once knew. World's oldest human fingerprint, on a 43,000-year-old painted pebble, deep in the caves of southern Europe, amidst walls adorned with the earliest known expressions of human creativity, a small, unassuming pebble has quietly held a secret for more than 43,000 years. On its smooth, ochre-stained surface rests the faint, delicate imprint of a human finger, pressed carefully into the paint by a hand that lived long before cities, before writing, before even the oldest stones of our familiar landscapes were formed into recognizable shapes. This fingerprint, preserved by chance in the mineral-rich environment of the cave, is more than just a mark. It is a bridge across millennia, connecting the modern observer to a moment of conscious action by a person whose life we can only imagine. Archaeologists discovered the pebble during careful excavations, each layer of sediment meticulously removed to reveal artifacts that have survived the passage of time with uncanny clarity. Among these, the painted pebble stood out, not for its size or brilliance, but for the subtle, intimate touch it still carried. Imagine the hands that left this mark. Perhaps the fingers were smeared with pigment, a mixture of ochre, charcoal, and other natural minerals, applied with care to create decoration or symbolic imagery. Perhaps the person was young, their movements careful and deliberate, aware that the act of pressing their finger into the soft surface would leave a trace long after they were gone. The fingerprint is a silent signature, a quiet declaration of existence, asserting that someone was here, someone thought, and someone created. The context of the pebble adds depth to the story. It was found alongside other painted stones, early tools, and fragments of habitation that suggest the cave was a place of both daily life and ceremonial activity. Here, prehistoric humans not only hunted and cooked and slept, but also expressed themselves through art, gesture, and symbolism. The fingerprint, though small, is a tangible piece of this creative world. It reminds us that even in the harsh and unpredictable conditions of the Pleistocene, humans sought ways to leave marks, to communicate, and to assert their presence in the world. The preservation of the fingerprint is remarkable. Over tens of thousands of years, the conditions of the cave, stable temperature, low humidity, and mineral-rich surroundings, allowed the delicate impression to endure. Its clarity enables researchers to study the minutiae of ridges and patterns, offering insight into the individual who left it. For scientists, it is a rare opportunity to peer into the biology and activity of a prehistoric human in a way that bones and tools alone cannot convey. Consider for a moment the broader implications. This is not simply a fingerprint. It is evidence of intentionality, of cognitive ability, and of early artistic expression. It is proof that humans of that era were not merely surviving, but engaging in symbolic acts, creating objects imbued with meaning, and leaving traces of their identity behind. Every ridge of the print, every curve and swirl, is a reminder of the intricate lives and minds of our distant ancestors. In the quiet of the cave, one can imagine the scene so many millennia ago. A group of early humans gathers near the flickering light of fires, painting the walls, perhaps sharing stories, rituals, or songs that are now lost to time. One individual reaches out, applying pigment to the surface of a pebble, pressing a fingertip into the soft layer of color, unaware that this small gesture would survive the millennia to speak across ages to the people who would one day study it. This fingerprint invites reflection on continuity and change. While the world around it has shifted dramatically, ice sheets advanced and retreated, landscapes altered, species appeared and disappeared, the simple act of pressing a finger into pigment remained untouched by time. It is a reminder that the essence of human curiosity, creativity, and the desire to leave a mark is timeless. Researchers also explore the technique and intention behind the pebble's decoration. Was it used in rituals, as a form of personal expression, or as a tool to convey symbolic meaning? While no one can say for certain, the evidence suggests deliberate placement and care. The fingerprint is a participant in the artwork, merging human touch with material, bridging the personal with the communal, and linking past to present in a way that few artifacts can. Imagine holding the pebble today. Its weight, its texture, the faint grooves where pigment and skin once met. Each detail offers a sensory connection to a person who lived tens of thousands of years ago. For the archaeologist, the experience is both scientific and profoundly human, a quiet conversation across time, a moment of intimacy that transcends eras. The discovery also resonates with questions of identity. Who was this person? What did they feel as they pressed their finger into the paint? Did they intend for their mark to be seen? Or was it accidental, a byproduct of creation? These mysteries remain, and they add to the quiet wonder of the find, leaving room for imagination, reflection, and a gentle contemplation of our shared humanity. Beyond its scientific value, the fingerprint inspires a connection with the past that is both emotional and meditative. It reminds us that humans have always sought to express themselves, to communicate, and to leave evidence of their existence. That simple, delicate ridge pattern becomes a meditation on the persistence of life, thought, and creativity over vast stretches of time. And so this 43,000-year-old fingerprint endures, quiet and unassuming, yet profoundly meaningful. It is a testament to the presence of humans long ago, a marker of cognition, care, and creativity, and a reminder that even the smallest gestures can echo across the centuries. It asks us to pause, to consider our connection to those who came before, and to reflect on the continuity of the human spirit, a spirit that leaves traces, imprints, and fingerprints wherever it touches the world. In the stillness of the cave, as light fades and shadows stretch across ancient walls, the fingerprint remains, a delicate, enduring signature of a hand that once reached out to leave a mark, bridging the vast distance between then and now, whispering across time in the quiet language of existence, creativity, and the human desire to be remembered. Fractured bones tell us about disability and care in Sweden's Middle Ages. In the quiet, windswept landscapes of medieval Sweden, where the forests stretch endlessly and rivers carve their slow paths through the earth, the remnants of human lives have long been hidden beneath soil and stone. Among these, the fractured bones of men, women, and children tell stories not written in books or carved into monuments, but in the very marrow and joints of those who lived long ago. These are traces of suffering and resilience, of pain and care, preserved through centuries of silence. Archaeologists, working with careful hands and keen eyes, have uncovered these remains in graveyards and settlements, piecing together the lives of individuals who endured broken bones, misaligned joints, and injuries that modern medicine can only imagine. Each fracture, each healed or partially healed wound, speaks of a body that was challenged yet cared for. These bones reveal not only accidents of the body or the hazards of medieval life, but also the response of communities, families, and neighbors who tended to their own, who provided support in a world without hospitals or formalized care. Consider the fractures themselves. Some are the result of violent conflict, perhaps a sword or arrow strike, a misstep on icy roads, or a heavy timber falling in a workshop. Others are the slow accumulation of injuries, the wear of hard labor over decades, the brittle bones of someone who survived harsh winters and poor nutrition. Yet in many cases the injuries bear the marks of healing. The bones show that these individuals lived for months or years after their fractures, sometimes with bones that had set incorrectly, sometimes with limbs that required constant adjustment by loved ones. The evidence of care is remarkable. Archaeologists have found signs that people were fed, moved, and supported despite their inability to fully work or defend themselves. Broken limbs that would have ended life in harsher times were allowed to mend, suggesting a society that valued life and recognized the human capacity for both suffering and endurance. The bones tell us about the ingenuity of care. Splints made from wood, bindings of leather, and careful positioning in graves to accommodate deformities or injuries. These subtle indicators speak of empathy and skill, of a community that acknowledged the needs of its vulnerable members. It is easy to imagine a person in this time, lying on a simple bed of straw or cloth, unable to stand or walk, yet surrounded by family members who carefully tended wounds, delivered food, and whispered encouragement. Their existence was precarious, but they were not abandoned. The fractures in their healing tell the story of relationships as much as biology, a testament to human connection and resilience in the face of daily hardship. Through the study of these bones, researchers can also understand more about medieval Swedish society itself. Which injuries were common, and which were rare? How did diet, climate, and occupation influence the frequency and type of fractures? How did social status affect the level of care someone might receive? Each bone is a clue, each fracture a narrative that adds depth to our understanding of the past, bridging the gap between modern life and centuries gone by. Imagine walking among these ancient settlements, hearing the whisper of the wind through timber-framed homes, feeling the cold of long winters, and considering the strength it took to survive with broken bones. Here, in the simplicity of daily life, we glimpse the universality of human vulnerability and compassion. The bones themselves, silent and still, become eloquent teachers. They show us that care is not a modern invention, but a timeless human response to suffering. The fractures also highlight the diversity of experience. Some individuals endured repeated injuries, suggesting lives of labor or conflict, while others show a single isolated trauma. Children and the elderly are represented as well, reminding us that fragility and dependence have always been part of human existence. The evidence points to a society where those who could not fully fend for themselves were often supported, perhaps as an ethical duty, perhaps as a cultural norm, but always with care that allowed life to continue despite physical limitations. In many cases, the healing is imperfect. Bones are fused at awkward angles, joints show signs of arthritis and wear, and some limbs never regained full function. Yet even in imperfection, there is evidence of survival, of patience, and of human ingenuity in adapting to injury. Splints, supports, and careful positioning in life and burial reflect a thoughtful, attentive approach to care that required attention and knowledge. These discoveries also challenge modern assumptions. Disability, frailty, and injury are not purely medical phenomena, they are deeply social. The medieval Swedish experience shows us that communities made choices about who lived, who was tended, and how resources were allocated to sustain life. The fractured bones are silent witnesses to these decisions, each one a story of negotiation between human limitation and human responsibility. As the sunlight filters into excavation sites today, illuminating the soil and the carefully unearthed skeletons, one can feel the presence of those long past. Their lives, struggles, and the care they received resonate through time. The broken bones tell a story of resilience, of tenderness, and of a society that, even without modern tools, found ways to support those who could not support themselves. In reflecting on these findings, we are reminded that human compassion has ancient roots. The fractures of medieval Swedes are more than injuries. They are messages from the past, gently urging us to consider what it meant to care, to endure, and to remain human in the face of hardship. Each mark, each healed bone, carries with it a quiet, enduring testament to the capacity for empathy and survival that continues to define us even today. And so, in the stillness of these burial sites, amid the earth and the remnants of daily life, the fractured bones whisper their stories, stories of injury and recovery, of pain and perseverance, of communities that tended their own. They remind us that history is not only in the grand monuments or epic battles, but in the small, compassionate acts that allowed life to continue against all odds. In the silence of Sweden's medieval past, the bones speak, inviting us to listen, to reflect, and to understand the timeless connection between fragility, care, and human resilience. Ancient origins. Reptiles appeared 40 million years earlier, show Australian fossils. Beneath the vast and ancient landscapes of Australia, where the earth stretches endlessly under a wide sky, scientists have uncovered fossils that tell a story far older than anyone could have imagined. These fragments, preserved carefully in layers of sediment and stone, hint at creatures that roamed the planet millions of years earlier than we once believed. The bones, subtle impressions and traces left behind, speak to a world untouched by humans, where life evolved in ways both familiar and utterly strange. For decades, paleontologists have searched for evidence that might fill the gaps in our understanding of early reptiles, their rise, and their adaptation to changing climates. Every fossil carries a silent testimony of survival, of creatures navigating landscapes that were harsh, unpredictable, and vastly different from today. When researchers first uncovered these remains, they realized that they were looking at a chapter of evolution that had been hidden, waiting patiently beneath the layers of time, whispering its secrets only to those who could read them. The process of excavation is meticulous and delicate. Scientists brush away centuries of dust and rock, uncovering fragments of jaws, claws, and vertebrae, piecing together a picture of animals that thrived long before most of the life forms we know. Each discovery reshapes our understanding of when reptiles first appeared and how they diversified across continents. With every careful unearthing, the timeline of life itself stretches further into the past, revealing an Earth teeming with evolutionary experiments and unexpected adaptations. In examining these fossils, researchers have identified structures in the bones that suggest a range of behaviors, from hunting and feeding to locomotion and even social interaction. Patterns emerge that hint at survival strategies used by reptiles in environments dominated by fluctuating temperatures, shifting coastlines, and changing vegetation. Fossils that were once considered ordinary fragments are now recognized as keys to understanding resilience, adaptation, and the profound patience of nature. What makes these discoveries so remarkable is the sheer age of the fossils. By dating the surrounding rock and analyzing the mineral composition, scientists have been able to push the origin of reptiles back by approximately 40 million years. This is not a small adjustment, but a vast leap that forces us to reconsider the timeline of life on Earth. Creatures that we once thought emerged much later were in fact exploring the planet, adapting to climates and landscapes, and leaving traces that would survive eons. Each fossil site in Australia has its own story. Some are found in riverbeds, where flowing water gradually exposed remnants of bones that had slept undisturbed for millions of years. Others lie hidden in arid deserts, preserved by layers of sediment that shielded them from erosion. These environments, harsh and unforgiving, became natural time capsules, holding the delicate remnants of an ancient world until the careful hands of paleontologists brought them to light. Through analysis and reconstruction, the fossils allow us to imagine a world vastly different from our own. Reptiles of this age varied in size, shape, and form. Some were swift and agile, navigating dense foliage and hunting insects or small vertebrates. Others were robust, equipped to endure long periods of scarcity. Their bodies adapted to survive harsh climates and shifting ecosystems. The diversity is staggering, illustrating that evolution is not linear, but a complex web of adaptation, experimentation, and survival. What makes this revelation even more profound is its implication for the broader understanding of life's history. By extending the known timeline of reptiles, scientists are also reconsidering the rise of other vertebrates, the ecosystems in which they lived, and the interrelationships between species. Fossils that were once studied in isolation are now understood as part of a larger interconnected tapestry of life, where every creature played a role in shaping the evolutionary path of the planet. These discoveries also highlight the meticulous nature of paleontology. Every fossil is studied under microscopes, scanned with advanced imaging techniques, and compared with specimens from around the world. Patterns in bone structure, growth rings, and wear provide insights into behavior, diet, and even seasonal changes in the environment. The care taken ensures that each fragment, no matter how small, contributes to a richer understanding of a world that existed millions of years before humans walked the earth. As we reflect on these ancient reptiles, we are reminded of the vastness of time and the endurance of life. Creatures that lived so long ago left traces that survived tectonic shifts, climate changes, and the slow march of erosion. Their existence, recorded in stone, connects us to a history that is both humbling and inspiring. In the quiet stillness of the fossil, we can almost hear the echo of a world long gone, yet alive through the knowledge we uncover today. Australia's ancient fossils are not just scientific curiosities, they are windows into a deep past. They challenge our assumptions, expand our timelines, and invite us to consider the resilience and ingenuity of life itself. Every new excavation, every careful measurement, and every reconstruction adds to a story that spans tens of millions of years, reminding us that Earth has always been a place of wonder, complexity, and endless mystery. The 40-million-year-old timeline now attributed to reptiles transforms our understanding of evolution and adaptation. It demonstrates that life is persistent, capable of surviving immense changes, and constantly experimenting with form and function. Each fossil serves as a testament to the power of life to endure, adapt, and flourish in ways we are only beginning to understand. And as we drift in thought through these ancient landscapes, imagining the creatures that once moved across continents and oceans, we are drawn into a quiet contemplation. The fossils speak without words, offering insight, wonder, and a deep, patient rhythm of life that resonates across time. In the study of these ancient reptiles, there is a lesson in observation, in patience, and in the profound connection between past and present. These discoveries, painstakingly unearthed and carefully analyzed, remind us that science is a journey. It is not just the accumulation of knowledge, but an intimate dialogue with history, with the earth itself, and with the lives that once shaped it. Every fossil is a story, every bone a chapter, and every site a silent witness to the extraordinary history of life. By tracing the origins of reptiles back 40 million years, we gain more than just dates and classifications. We gain a perspective on resilience, adaptation, and the astonishing complexity of life. The fossils whisper to us, slowly and deliberately, encouraging a calm reflection on the deep past and the remarkable creatures that walked this earth long before us. In the quiet of the laboratories, under the careful scrutiny of microscopes and scanners, and in the soft brushstrokes across excavation sites, these ancient reptiles come alive, not in the rush of discovery, but in the patience of study, in the rhythm of unearthing, and in the deep human connection to understanding our world. And so, as the fossils of Australia's ancient reptiles continue to reveal their secrets, we are reminded of the vast, unfolding story of life. A story measured not in days or years, but in millions of years. A story of survival, of adaptation, and of a world that existed long before our own. In their quiet, enduring presence, we find wonder, curiosity, and a profound sense of connection to the earth that has preserved these remarkable creatures for us to discover, study, and quietly admire. New evidence suggests formation in Turkey might really be Noah's Ark. High on the rugged mountains of eastern Turkey, in a place where snow and stone meet the vast sky, a formation has captured the imagination of scientists, historians, and explorers alike. It is a place that has long been shrouded in mystery, where the contours of the land hint at a story that may be thousands of years old, a story that could connect the natural world with one of humanity's oldest legends. For centuries, the tale of Noah's Ark has been told and retold, a story of survival, of water rising over the earth, and of life preserved against impossible odds. While for many it exists in the pages of scripture, in this remote mountain range, there are whispers of something tangible, evidence that might bridge myth and reality. It is here that researchers have observed unusual formations, lines and shapes that seem remarkably consistent with descriptions of a vessel built to endure a flood of unimaginable proportions. The discovery began with careful surveys, satellite imaging, and the patient study of the terrain. What initially appeared as a natural ridge slowly revealed characteristics that were extraordinary. The shape is elongated, tapering at one end, broader at the other, resembling the proportions one might expect of a large boat. From above, the outline is even more striking. Subtle ridges suggest compartments, divisions, or structural elements, preserved beneath layers of rock and soil, waiting patiently for human eyes to notice. Archaeologists and geologists approach the site with caution, knowing the risk of wishful thinking and the limits of evidence. Archaeologists and geologists approach the site with caution, knowing the risk of wishful thinking and the limits of evidence. Every stone, every curve, and every line was measured, documented, and compared with what could naturally occur in this rugged environment. And yet, the more they studied, the more questions arose. Could nature alone create this precise vessel-like shape? Or had human hands long ago left their mark, building something that would endure for millennia? Radiocarbon dating, rock composition analysis, and soil stratification studies were undertaken to determine the age of the formation. Layers of sediment suggested that the structure had been covered and protected for thousands of years, enduring wind, rain, and shifting geology. While definitive proof remains elusive, the evidence points to a combination of natural and possibly human influence, a remarkable confluence of history and geology. Explorers who have ventured to the site often describe a sense of awe, a quiet wonder that comes from standing on a ridge, so ancient that it seems to hold the weight of the world's stories. The air is thin, crisp, and cold, carrying whispers of wind that move across the mountains and echo against the stone. As you trace the contours of the formation, it is easy to imagine the Ark resting here, a lifeboat in the midst of a flood, carrying animals, plants, and the hope of survival for life itself. Researchers also examine the surrounding area for supporting evidence, tools, traces of human activity, and organic matter that might indicate past habitation or construction. Small fragments of wood, unusual mineral deposits, and anomalies in the soil all provide tantalizing hints. Each piece of evidence, though subtle, adds to a growing sense that this formation is more than a simple geological coincidence. The story of Noah's Ark, as it is told across cultures, is one of preservation, patience, and endurance. And in studying this Turkish formation, scientists find themselves reflecting on these same qualities. The layers of rock, the time past, and the resilience of the formation mirror the endurance of life itself, preserved across generations and across continents. Technological tools aid the exploration. Ground-penetrating radar, 3D mapping, and high-resolution imaging allow researchers to see beneath the surface without disturbing the ancient ground. Every scan, Every image adds depth to the story, revealing compartments, walls, or ridges that are not immediately visible to the naked eye. These features inspire further investigation, questions, and careful hypotheses about what might have existed here thousands of years ago. Historians weigh the evidence against ancient texts, oral traditions, and the rich tapestry of myths that describe floods, divine intervention, and human ingenuity. While skepticism remains, there is also a quiet thrill in imagining the possibility that history and legend might converge in one remote, mountainous location. For some, the site represents a bridge between science and story, the tangible and the imagined, the past and the present. As the sun rises and sets over these mountains, the formation remains steadfast, patient, and silent. The harsh winds of winter, the summer rains, and the shifting sands all leave their marks, yet the outline endures, as if waiting for the world to pay attention. Standing near it, one cannot help but feel connected to the long history of the earth, to the countless generations who have walked these lands, and to the stories that have been passed down through time. This exploration is not just about proving or disproving legend. It is about discovery, wonder, and the human need to understand our place in the world. Each day spent surveying, mapping, and studying the formation adds pieces to a puzzle that may never be fully solved. And yet, in this patient pursuit of knowledge, there is beauty, insight, and a quiet satisfaction. The formation, whether natural, human-made, or a combination of both, continues to captivate researchers and dreamers alike. It invites reflection on endurance, ingenuity, and the ways humans and nature intertwine. As scientists continue to investigate, the possibility remains that beneath the layers of stone and soil lies a story that connects us not just to the past, but to the shared imagination of all who have wondered about survival, life, and the extraordinary events that shape our world. In studying this formation in Turkey, we are reminded that the earth holds secrets that have waited silently for millennia. Some may never be fully understood. Others may slowly reveal themselves through careful observation, patience, and the curiosity of those willing to search. Each fossil, stone, and ridge is a testament to time, endurance, and the subtle whispers of history that call to us across the ages. And so, as we consider the evidence, the formation, and the stories it inspires, we are left with a quiet awe. Whether it is truly Noah's Ark or a remarkable natural feature, it reminds us of the mysteries that endure, the patience of the earth, and the human desire to understand, to explore, and to connect with the past. In this quiet, in this patient study, there is a rhythm, a reflection, and a connection to the ancient world that can soothe, inspire, and quietly transport us through the long sweep of history. Get a grip. What ancient human fossil fingers tell us about our ancestors, written in full calm lines, in a quiet corner of an ancient landscape. Long before cities and monuments, humans were learning to shape their world. Their hands, delicate yet strong, held the tools, crafted the shelters, and carried the essence of survival. Fossilized fingers, preserved for tens of thousands of years, offer us an intimate glimpse into the lives of these early people. These small bones, often overlooked in favor of skulls or larger skeletal remains, tell stories that words alone could never capture. Each finger, though tiny, speaks of dexterity, intelligence, and adaptation. Scientists who study these fossils are often struck by the subtle curves, the proportions, and the wear patterns that hint at how these early humans lived, worked, and survived. From gripping sharp stone tools to holding on to the fragile strings of early musical instruments, these fingers reveal the ingenuity and skill of a species on the path to mastering its environment. The discovery of these fossils often occurs in layers of soil, carefully sifted by archaeologists, in caves, riverbeds, and sediment-rich valleys. Sometimes, the find is accidental, a fragment exposed by erosion, a bone uncovered during excavation, but each fragment carries immense significance. The texture of the bone, its growth patterns, and the marks left by tendons and muscles help researchers reconstruct the movement, strength, and daily habits of our ancestors. Some fossils show evidence of remarkable precision. The tips are worn in ways that suggest the repeated use of tools, perhaps for carving, cutting, or creating items of daily necessity. Others display features that hint at gripping capabilities adapted for climbing, hunting, or gathering. Each subtle detail adds to a picture of early humans as adaptable and capable beings, balancing survival with ingenuity. As we examine these fingers, we also glimpse the evolution of our own hands. The proportions, joint structures, and nail beds offer a connection across millennia, linking modern humans with those who lived thousands of years before us. Anthropologists use these clues to understand how early humans interacted with their environment, from crafting spears and knives to manipulating small objects, demonstrating a level of sophistication that challenges earlier assumptions about prehistoric life. Fossilized fingers are also a reminder of fragility. These delicate remnants have survived through centuries of change, shifting earth, and natural decay, preserved only by extraordinary circumstances. Their survival allows us to trace patterns of migration, adaptation, and even social behavior. It is remarkable that such small bones can hold such profound insight into the human story. The study of these fossils also invites contemplation of the daily lives of early humans. What tasks required the most dexterity? How did they manipulate their tools and objects? How did these skills influence the survival of communities and the passing down of knowledge from one generation to the next? Each finger becomes a bridge to the past, connecting us with individuals who lived, worked, and dreamed in a world both harsh and beautiful. Moreover, scientists are often able to determine the age, sex, and even the health of individuals from these tiny remains. Signs of arthritis, injuries, or repetitive stress reveal the physical challenges of early life, while the robustness of bones speaks to activity levels and the types of labor undertaken. In this way, fossilized fingers are not merely remnants, they are storytellers, preserving the intimate and often overlooked details of prehistoric existence. Beyond the biological details, there is also a sense of wonder in imagining the experiences of these ancient people. Fingers that once clutched hunting tools, guided the young, or crafted shelters, now sit in the quiet halls of laboratories, whispering lessons of resilience, creativity, and adaptability. They remind us that humanity's story is not just one of grand monuments and famous discoveries, but also of the subtle, intricate aspects of daily life. Through careful analysis, comparisons with modern humans, and experimental archaeology, researchers have reconstructed the capabilities these fingers imply. Some studies show how these ancient hands could tie knots, fashion clothing, or create ornaments. Others hint at early artistic expression, manipulating pigments or carving small figurines, suggesting that even tens of thousands of years ago, humans had a desire not only to survive, but to create meaning. These fossils, fragile and quiet, demand patience from the scientists who study them. Each bone photographed, measured, and sometimes digitally reconstructed, adds a small but vital piece to the larger puzzle of human history. It is through such careful study that we begin to see the complexity, intelligence, and creativity of our ancestors emerge, sometimes in surprising ways. Standing before these ancient remains, it is easy to feel a connection across time. These fingers, once instruments of survival and daily life, now speak to us in silence, revealing both continuity and change. They remind us that evolution is not only about survival, but about adaptation, skill, and the subtle shaping of the world. In the end, the fossilized fingers of our ancestors are more than bones. They are symbols of ingenuity, resilience, and connection. They teach us that even in a world of unknown challenges, early humans found ways to adapt, create, and thrive. As we study them, we are reminded of the enduring story of humanity, a story written not only in monumental structures or elaborate tools, but also in the quiet, precise, and profoundly human movements of hands that have shaped the course of history. And so, as we consider these ancient fingers, we see more than remnants of bone. We see the essence of human curiosity, dexterity, and determination, a gentle reminder that even the smallest parts of our ancestors hold the grandest stories. Their lives, preserved across millennia, continue to inspire wonder, reflection, and a quiet appreciation for the extraordinary journey of humanity. Relief of Assyrian king Ashurbanipal unearthed in Iraq, Din, in the heart of Mesopotamia, along the banks of the Tigris and Euphrates. Ancient civilizations thrived in a land of rivers, soil, and sky. For millennia, this cradle of human history has kept its secrets buried beneath layers of sand, stone, and time. Among these secrets, archaeologists have recently uncovered a remarkable artifact, a 2,600-year-old relief depicting Ashurbanipal, the last great king of Assyria. Ashurbanipal ruled an empire that stretched across much of the ancient Near East. His reign was marked by conquest, knowledge, and an insatiable curiosity for the world around him. Yet it is not only his deeds that captivate modern observers. The relief itself, a carefully carved stone panel, offers a window into the culture, artistry, and ideology of an empire that once dominated the region. The relief was discovered during careful excavation in Iraq, a land layered with centuries of history. Archaeologists often work with precision and patience, removing sand and debris millimeter by millimeter, ensuring that the story embedded in the artifact is preserved. As the stone emerged from the earth, its details slowly revealed themselves: the intricate garments of the king, the regal posture, and the symbolic motifs that adorned the surrounding frame. This relief is more than a representation of a ruler. It is a document of power, artistry, and belief. The images carved into the stone depict Ashurbanipal in commanding scenes, sometimes hunting lions, a symbol of strength, courage, and divine favor. Each line, each curve of the chisel was intended to convey not only the authority of the king, but also the culture's understanding of kingship and responsibility. In studying the relief, researchers observed the techniques used by ancient artisans, the depth of carving, the texture of the stone, and the composition all suggest a highly skilled workshop, one capable of translating political messages into visual language. The relief is also a record of Assyrian priorities, showcasing the king's military prowess, his devotion to the gods, and his role as the protector of his people. But beyond the artistry and symbolism lies a more human story. Ashurbanipal was not only a king, he was a man of his time, surrounded by advisors, scribes, and artists. The relief reflects the culture that nurtured him, the institutions that supported him, and the people whose lives were intertwined with the machinery of empire. The stone has survived for over 2.5 millennia, enduring the passage of empires, invasions, and natural erosion. Its preservation allows modern audiences to contemplate the continuity and fragility of human achievement. As researchers study the relief, they uncover layers of meaning, both intentional and accidental. Marks left by the chisel, traces of pigment, and subtle details in posture reveal not only craftsmanship, but also the worldview of the Assyrians. The context of the relief's discovery adds to its story. It was found within the ruins of a palace complex, once vibrant with activity, politics, and ceremony. Each room, each wall, each artifact carries echoes of life long past. The relief, now freed from its resting place beneath centuries of debris, invites us to imagine the halls it once adorned, the light that may have illuminated it, and the eyes of those who first gazed upon it. This relief also connects to a broader narrative of Assyrian history. Ashurbanipal's empire was among the most powerful of its time, and yet even he could not halt the eventual decline of Assyria. The artifact serves as a reminder that human ambition, artistry, and power are both enduring and transient. As we gaze upon the king's carved figure, we reflect not only on his era, but on the passage of time and the impermanence of empires. In addition to historical context, the relief sparks curiosity about the daily lives of those who created it. The artists, working under royal commission, had to master stone composition and iconography. They needed to convey narrative, authority, and spirituality in a single panel. Their skill and patience remind us that even in ancient times, humans were capable of extraordinary expression, translating abstract ideas into tangible, enduring forms. The relief is also an invitation to think about symbolism and communication in early civilizations. The king, the animals, the inscriptions, and the decorative motifs all combine to tell a story intended to last, to impress, and to educate both contemporaries and future generations. Each element has been carefully considered, offering modern observers insight into a culture that placed great importance on visual representation and legacy. For those who study Assyrian history, this relief is both a discovery and a puzzle. It adds to the growing understanding of political structure, religious belief, and artistic practice in ancient Mesopotamia. Every detail, from the posture of the king to the tiny embellishments carved into his robes, helps reconstruct the world in which he lived. As we contemplate this year-old relief, it is easy to be transported across time and space. We can imagine walking through the palace halls, hearing the sounds of court life, feeling the weight of authority and ritual, and observing the artisans at work, their hands shaping stone with care and reverence. It is a connection across millennia, a gentle reminder that history is not only about events, but also about human creativity, expression, and survival. The discovery of the relief also inspires reflection on the broader significance of preserving cultural heritage. Each artifact uncovered is a testament to human ingenuity and resilience, a reminder that even the smallest details can illuminate the past in profound ways. The king, the artisans, and the people who lived alongside them are not lost. They speak to us through the stone, through the carefully carved lines that remain. Ultimately, the relief of Ashurbanipal is more than a depiction of a ruler. It is a narrative frozen in stone, a story of power, artistry, and the human experience. As we study it, we honor the skill of the past, the lives of those who shaped it, and the enduring curiosity that drives us to explore, understand, and connect with the distant echoes of our shared history. And so, the stone panel rests quietly, telling its story in silence. It is a bridge across time, a conversation between ancient and modern, a gentle invitation to reflect on the lives, aspirations, and creativity of people who lived thousands of years ago. Through this relief, the voice of Ashurbanipal, the hands of the artisans, and the world of ancient Assyria continue to speak, patiently, endlessly, to those who are willing to listen. Chopped up human bones in Guatemalan cave came from Maya sacrificial murders, deep in the dense forests of Guatemala. where sunlight filters softly through the canopy and the air hums with life, there are caves that have stood undisturbed for centuries. Hidden within these natural chambers, archaeologists have recently uncovered a chilling and extraordinary discovery: human bones, carefully cut and arranged, revealing a history of ritual and sacrifice among the ancient Maya. The Maya civilization thrived for more than 1,000 years across Mesoamerica, known for their remarkable cities, pyramids, and knowledge of astronomy. Yet alongside their achievements in art and science, their religious and ceremonial practices were often intense and demanding. Sacrifice, in particular, held a central role in maintaining the favor of the gods and ensuring cosmic balance. In one of these Guatemalan caves, the bones tell a story frozen in time. Analysis shows that the remains were not scattered randomly. Instead, the cuts, marks, and positioning suggest deliberate and precise actions, likely part of ritualistic ceremonies carried out with solemn intent. These were not casual acts of violence, but deeply meaningful practices, bound by the cultural and spiritual frameworks of the Maya. Archaeologists carefully documented the site, photographing, measuring, and analyzing each fragment. In the shadows of the cave, every bone revealed details, splintering patterns, chop marks, and signs of ancient tools used to dismember the bodies. These markings provide insight into the techniques employed and the rituals they were part of, allowing modern observers to piece together the beliefs and ceremonies of a civilization long gone. The location of the cave itself is significant. Hidden deep within the jungle, it would have been difficult for ordinary individuals to access, which suggests that those performing the rituals were specialists, trained and sanctioned by religious or political authorities. The isolation of the site also implies a reverence for secrecy and sacredness, a desire to maintain a spiritual connection removed from the eyes of daily life. Beyond the technical analysis, the bones evoke questions about the lives of the individuals themselves. Were they volunteers, captives, or esteemed participants in a ceremony? Each fragment is a human story, once vibrant with life, now preserved in silence. Through forensic study, we can glimpse their age, health, and even dietary habits, bridging a connection across more than a millennium. The Maya were meticulous record keepers, often using codices and carvings to document ceremonies. While no written record exists for these specific sacrifices, the archaeological evidence speaks in its own language. The patterns of dismemberment, the arrangement of bones, and the traces of ritual offerings paint a vivid picture of devotion, fear, and societal structure. Understanding the context is essential. Sacrifice was not only an act of worship, but also a mechanism of power and social cohesion. It reinforced the authority of the elite, ensured the favor of deities, and symbolically represented the struggle between life, death, and renewal. For the Maya, these rituals were vital to sustaining the cosmos itself, a reminder that the sacred and the mortal were intricately intertwined. The cave also yielded artifacts associated with the ceremonies: pottery, beads, and ritual tools. These objects, placed carefully beside the remains, enhance our understanding of the spiritual practices. They reveal a culture that imbued everyday items with sacred significance, turning ordinary materials into vessels of connection with the divine. By studying the bones and surrounding objects, researchers have reconstructed the probable sequence of events. The individuals were likely prepared according to ceremonial guidelines, sacrificed according to a ritual calendar, and placed in the cave in a manner designed to honor both gods and ancestors. The care and precision reflect a society deeply invested in the metaphysical world, one in which human life and divine will were inseparably linked. This discovery, though unsettling, offers a profound insight into Maya civilization. It is a reminder that the past holds both beauty and darkness, that advanced societies practiced rituals that may seem alien or extreme to modern sensibilities. Yet within these acts lies a human desire to understand existence, to reach beyond mortality, and to find meaning in the natural and supernatural worlds. The Guatemalan cave, silent for centuries, now speaks to us through these remains. It reminds us of the complexity of ancient societies, their dedication, and the lengths they went to maintain balance and connection with the cosmos. Every bone, every mark, every artifact carries whispers of the people who lived, sacrificed, and believed in a universe where humans and gods shared an intertwined destiny. As we reflect on this discovery, it is important to approach it with both curiosity and respect. These were real people, participating in a culture that, while distant in time, shares the same fundamental humanity as ourselves. Their choices, beliefs, and rituals may be strange to us, yet they offer timeless lessons about devotion, community, and the ways in which humans seek to navigate the mysteries of existence. Through the careful study of these bones, archaeologists illuminate the Maya world in ways that textbooks alone cannot. They allow us to connect with a civilization that thrived, sacrificed, and sought to understand the universe with the same curiosity and awe that drive us today. In the quiet of the cave, beneath layers of soil and centuries of history, the echoes of these rituals endure. The bones, now silent, speak volumes to those willing to observe, reflect, and contemplate the intricate tapestry of life, death, and belief in the ancient Maya world. And in this stillness, we are reminded that history is not merely a record of events, it is a collection of human experiences, emotions, and aspirations, patiently waiting to be heard, studied, and honored. Nufa-kind boats, dating back 1,000 years, unearthed in Vietnam, in the heart of Vietnam, along a river that winds quietly through lush landscapes. Archaeologists have uncovered a remarkable find: ancient boats, preserved almost perfectly, despite the passage of 1,000 years. These are not just remnants of wood shaped by the hands of the past, they are windows into the lives, journeys, and ingenuity of people who lived long before our modern era. The boats themselves are extraordinary in their design. Each one, carefully crafted from timber, demonstrates an advanced understanding of buoyancy, stability, and construction techniques that may surprise even the most seasoned historians. The artisans who built these vessels were not merely making tools for survival, they were crafting instruments of connection, ways to link communities, carry goods, and traverse the waterways that were vital to daily life and commerce. When the excavation team first revealed the boats, layers of soil and sediment had shielded them from decay for centuries. The careful preservation of the wood, combined with the surrounding clay and mud, meant that the shapes, nails, and even intricate carvings remained intact. Archaeologists could study every curve, every plank, and every joint, piecing together not only how the boats were built, but also how they were used. This discovery provides insight into trade, culture, and the rhythm of daily life. A millennium ago, the waterways of Vietnam were arteries of connection, moving people, rice, fish, and other goods from village to village, from river to market. These boats were essential instruments of survival, commerce, and communication. They remind us that the people of the past, like us today, relied on ingenuity, skill, and collaboration to thrive. Even more fascinating is the craftsmanship itself. The boats reveal techniques that suggest a sophisticated understanding of water currents, wood selection, and structural stability. The builders had mastered the challenges of floating heavy loads, while maintaining balance and maneuverability, all without the aid of modern tools or engineering knowledge. It is a testament to human innovation and observation of the natural world. As researchers examine the surrounding site, they find remnants of daily life intertwined with the boats, tools, pottery, and even traces of ancient fishing nets. These objects, quiet witnesses to a world long gone, tell a story of a society deeply connected to its environment, dependent on rivers for sustenance, and skilled in turning natural resources into tools for survival and advancement. The discovery also raises questions about trade and cultural exchange. The designs of the boats, while unique, show similarities with vessels found in other regions of Southeast Asia. Did these communities share knowledge over hundreds of kilometers? Were these boats part of larger networks of commerce and communication, linking distant societies along the rivers and coasts? Every plank, every nail, and every joint may hold answers to questions we are only beginning to understand. For the people of that time, life along the rivers would have been both challenging and vital. Seasonal floods, changing water levels, and unpredictable weather required flexibility, skill, and foresight. The boats were more than transport, they were lifelines. They carried families, traders, and supplies, allowing communities to prosper and culture to flourish in the rhythm of water and land. Beyond their practical purpose, these boats may also have held symbolic or ceremonial significance. Some carvings and patterns suggest that certain vessels were not used for ordinary work, but may have been reserved for ritual processions or special events. In this way, the boats connect us to both the physical and spiritual worlds of the people who made them, offering insight into beliefs, values, and the ways in which daily life and ritual intersected. As we imagine the river 1,000 years ago, it flows silently beneath the sun, carrying people whose lives were intimately tied to the water. They rowed, paddled, and guided these boats with knowledge passed down through generations, never imagining that centuries later, we would uncover their work, preserved in silence, waiting to tell their story. The excavation is ongoing. Each day brings new surprises, from fragments of wood to the discovery of tools used in the boat-making process. Every finding adds detail to the picture of a society that thrived along the rivers, adapting, innovating, and leaving behind a legacy of ingenuity and resilience. Through these boats, we can connect with a people long gone, understanding their challenges, their solutions, and their remarkable ability to work with nature rather than against it. It is a quiet reminder that human curiosity, creativity, and skill are timeless, linking us to our ancestors in ways that transcend the centuries. In the end, these ancient boats are more than artifacts. They are vessels of history, carrying the stories, knowledge, and spirit of those who once lived along the waterways of Vietnam. They remind us that even in silence, the past can speak, offering insight, wonder, and connection to a world that continues to shape our own. Mystery of Parthenon's dazzling ancient lighting system has been solved. High on the Acropolis, where the Parthenon rises in quiet majesty above the city of Athens, archaeologists have uncovered clues to a mystery that has puzzled historians for centuries. How, in an age before electricity, could this ancient temple have glowed with light so evenly, so beautifully, that it seemed almost magical to those who entered? The Parthenon, dedicated to Athena, was a marvel not only of architecture, but also of design. Its columns, friezes, and sculptures have long been admired for their proportions and artistry, yet the way it was illuminated remained a secret. Ancient texts hinted at a brilliance that seemed impossible to achieve with mere torches or sunlight alone, and for generations, scholars debated, speculated, and sometimes dismissed the descriptions as exaggerations. Recent studies, combining archaeology with physics and careful examination of surviving fragments, have begun to reveal a startling solution. Within the temple's walls and floor, there were intricate systems of polished bronze and reflective surfaces, designed to capture sunlight during the day and to maximize the effect of torches and oil lamps at night. These reflectors, angled with precision, allowed light to bounce across the marble surfaces, casting a gentle golden glow that highlighted every detail of the carvings and columns. Walking through the temple in those days must have been an experience unlike any other. The light would have softened shadows, emphasizing the contours of statues and friezes, making the stories depicted in stone come alive. Every visitor, whether a citizen of Athens or a traveler from distant lands, would have felt as if the Parthenon itself were a living, breathing space, radiant and almost divine. The ingenuity of the architects and engineers is evident in every detail. Holes, channels, and bronze fittings, carefully placed throughout the temple, were not arbitrary. They were part of a deliberate plan to control and distribute light, creating an effect that was both functional and aesthetic. It was lighting designed to honor the goddess, to awe the worshippers, and to express the city's wealth and sophistication. Interestingly, the system also took into account the changing sun throughout the year. During solstices and equinoxes, the angles of sunlight would have illuminated different parts of the temple, marking seasonal changes and ritual occasions. This meant that light itself became a silent participant in religious ceremonies, guiding attention, evoking emotion, and enhancing the sacred atmosphere of the Parthenon. Archaeologists have pieced together models, tested simulations, and even recreated small-scale versions of the reflective system. What emerges is a testament to human creativity, observation, and dedication. The builders of the Parthenon were not only skilled artisans and architects, they were scientists of light, understanding its behavior and harnessing it in ways that still surprise us today. For the worshippers of Athena, this lighting system would have transformed the temple into more than a structure of stone and marble. It was a stage, a canvas, and a vessel for divine presence. The interplay of shadows and reflections may have made the goddess seem alive, watching over her city, blessing those who came in devotion. Even today, standing among the ruins, one can sense the brilliance that once filled the space. The temple may no longer glow as it did, but knowing the thought, planning, and skill that went into its lighting allows us to imagine the Parthenon as it was meant to be experienced, radiant, awe-inspiring, and deeply human in its ingenuity. This discovery not only solves a historical puzzle, but also reminds us that ancient civilizations were capable of technological sophistication that rivals our own. They understood physics, geometry, and aesthetics in ways that allowed them to create beauty and functionality together. The Parthenon, in its glowing magnificence, stands as a silent testament to this knowledge, preserved across millennia for us to study and admire. It is a reminder that technology is not just modern. Even thousands of years ago, humans observed, experimented, and innovated, shaping the world around them in ways that continue to inspire awe. And as we explore these discoveries, we connect with the minds of our ancestors, sharing in their curiosity, ingenuity, and vision. The mystery of the Parthenon's dazzling light is no longer just a tale. It is a bridge between our world and theirs, a window into a time when science and art merged seamlessly to create experiences that transcended the ordinary. In the warm, gentle glow of sunlight bouncing across marble, we see their legacy, their understanding, and their brilliance, preserved for us to discover, imagine, and learn from. Herculaneum Scroll, virtually unrolled, author and title-eyed, beneath the ash and debris of Herculaneum, a city frozen in time by the eruption of Mount Vesuvius in 79 CE. Archaeologists have long discovered treasures that whisper of daily life, art, and literature from a world long vanished. Among these treasures were the papyrus scrolls, charred and fragile, tucked away in a villa once belonging to an elite Roman family. For centuries these scrolls resisted every attempt to open them, their fragile state preventing even the gentlest touch from revealing their secrets. They were more than fragments of writing, they were silent witnesses to human thought, philosophy and knowledge, captured and almost lost forever beneath layers of volcanic ash. Modern technology has changed the story. Using advanced imaging techniques, scholars have been able to virtually unroll these ancient scrolls, revealing words, letters, and passages that have not been read for nearly 2,000 years. And now, for the first time, the author and title of one of these elusive scrolls have been identified, reconnecting us with the voice of a thinker whose ideas had been trapped in darkness for centuries. Imagine the scroll itself, tightly rolled, brittle with age, blackened by fire, yet still holding the inked impressions of human thought. Every line, every curve of the letters, is a testament to the care with which it was created. The Romans, and particularly the educated elite, placed great value on written words, on philosophy, history, and poetry. These scrolls were not just texts, they were vessels of culture, memory, and understanding. The virtual unrolling process is delicate, painstaking, and almost meditative. It requires a combination of imaging, digital reconstruction, and careful analysis, where even a small miscalculation could blur the letters or erase a word forever. Scholars work slowly, breathing almost in rhythm with the scroll itself, as if honoring the centuries it has survived. In doing so, they bring to life the voice of the author, bridging a gap of nearly 2 millennia. The identification of the author and title is more than an academic achievement. It is a moment of human connection, a whisper from the past that speaks to us today. The text, once trapped in silence, now conveys ideas, arguments, or stories that resonate across time. Perhaps it is a work of philosophy, a reflection on human nature, or a guide to understanding the world. Whatever its content, it reminds us that even in the midst of catastrophe, the human mind sought to record, reflect, and share. As we consider the journey of this scroll, from the hands of its creator to the villa in Herculaneum, from burial beneath ash to discovery, centuries later, we are reminded of the fragility and resilience of human knowledge. Each line of text survived not through strength, but through careful preservation by accident, through the serendipity of nature, and now through the deliberate patience of modern science. In the quiet of the lab, with screens illuminating the virtual unrolling, one can almost feel the presence of the ancient author. There is a sense of intimacy, a connection to someone who lived in a time we can only imagine, yet whose thoughts are suddenly accessible. This connection transforms the scroll from an object of historical curiosity into a living artifact, a bridge between centuries. The discovery also challenges our understanding of what was possible in antiquity. The Herculaneum scrolls, their survival, and the ability to decode them today, reflect not only the sophistication of Roman culture, but also the ingenuity of modern researchers. Through technology, collaboration, and persistence, humanity recovers its own memory, piecing together a world that has been hidden for generations. And so, the scroll is no longer silent. Its words can be read, studied, and appreciated. Its author, once anonymous, now speaks across the centuries, offering insight into a time, a culture, and a mind that has been dormant yet present for far too long. It is a reminder that even in the face of destruction, human thought endures, waiting for the moment when it can be heard once again. As we reflect on this achievement, we are invited to pause, to consider the lives of those who came before us, and to marvel at the resilience of human creativity. The scroll, once locked in silence, now illuminates the past, offering a gentle, profound connection that transcends time. In the end, the virtual unrolling of the Herculaneum scroll is more than a technological triumph. It is a meditation on history, memory, and the enduring power of the written word. In the quiet of the laboratory, under the soft glow of screens and scanners, we witness a resurrection, a voice from the past, speaking to us today, reminding us that knowledge, once captured, is never truly lost, only waiting to be rediscovered. Archaeologists unearth ancient tree-lined path to Egyptian fortress, beneath the shifting sands of Egypt, where the sun casts long shadows over dunes that have stood for millennia. Archaeologists have made a remarkable discovery. Hidden for centuries, almost entirely forgotten by the passage of time, is a tree-lined path leading to an ancient fortress. At first glance, it seems impossible. How could a path, once trodden by soldiers and messengers, have survived the relentless desert winds and drifting sands? Yet there it lies, faint but undeniable, a testament to human ingenuity, persistence, and the desire to shape the landscape itself. The discovery begins with careful excavation. Each layer of soil is examined, sifted, and documented. Small tools are used to brush away sand and sediment, revealing traces of what once was, and slowly, almost magically, the path emerges, lined with the remnants of trees, planted centuries ago. The avenue hints at a civilization that sought order, protection, and beauty, even in the harshest of environments. The trees themselves, preserved in part by the arid climate, were not merely decorative. They provided shade for travelers, markers for those moving supplies, and a sense of direction across a landscape that could otherwise be disorienting and unforgiving. Imagine walking this path in its prime, the sun filtering through branches, the air filled with the scent of earth and leaves, and the distant silhouette of the fortress rising against the horizon. Messengers might have hurried along its length, carrying messages or scrolls. Soldiers would have marched, drills and weapons at their sides, their footsteps falling in rhythm with the heartbeat of a city preparing for defense. Merchants, servants, and even animals would have used this path to transport goods, creating a constant flow of life and energy along its carefully maintained route. The fortress itself, now partially revealed through excavation, speaks of strategy and strength. Its walls, built with precision and foresight, were designed to protect those within from invaders, and to command a view over the surrounding land. But the path leading to it is equally important. It shows that the people who built this stronghold understood the importance of planning, of infrastructure, and of connection. The path was a lifeline, linking the fortress with the wider world. Archaeologists have uncovered pottery shards, fragments of tools, and the occasional weapon along the route. Each item tells a story, a small whisper from the past. They suggest not only military activity, but also everyday life. Travelers, resting, tradesmen, pausing, communities interacting along the path. It is a reminder that even in times of conflict, human life continues with routines, exchanges, and moments of quiet reflection. The trees themselves reveal even more. By studying their remains, scientists can understand the species used, their growth patterns, and how they were planted to endure the desert climate. Perhaps they were irrigated using channels now lost to sight. Perhaps the path once shimmered with water, brought from distant sources, making it a cool and shaded walkway during the heat of the day. Every element demonstrates a sophisticated understanding of the environment, and a respect for the land that has long since passed from memory. As the excavation continues, modern researchers are careful not to rush. Each step is deliberate, each brushstroke gentle. There is an almost meditative quality to the work, a rhythm of discovery that mirrors the rhythm of those who once walked this path. Time, in this sense, becomes layered. The past and present coexist in the dust, the roots, and the stones, and for those who study it, there is a profound sense of connection, a fleeting glimpse into lives that endured, struggled, and thrived thousands of years ago. The path is more than a physical structure. It is a symbol of communication, protection, and the human desire to shape the world. Even in a landscape that seems harsh and unyielding, the Egyptians carved a route that connected people, places, and ideas. Its discovery today is a reminder that beneath the sands, beneath the surface of what seems barren, there are stories waiting patiently to be revealed. Each day, as archaeologists work, new fragments of the past appear. Small bones, pottery, and even the remnants of ancient clothing remind us that history is not only monumental, it is intimate. It is the steps of a child, running along the path, the careful placement of a pot for water, the hurried footsteps of a soldier on duty. And now, centuries later, we walk alongside them in imagination, tracing their steps through dust and time. As the fortress gradually comes into view, framed by the ancient trees lining the path, it becomes clear that this discovery is more than a route from one point to another. It is a window into a civilization that valued strategy, foresight, and the rhythm of daily life. The trees, the path, the fortress, they all speak of an interconnected world, of human lives carefully intertwined with the land they inhabited. And so, the tree-lined path stands as a quiet witness to history. It endured the sands, the wind, and the centuries, waiting for modern eyes to see it once more. Walking its length in thought, one can feel the lives that passed there, the planning, the care, the simple moments of human experience that were etched into every stone and root. In the stillness of the desert, beneath the sun and sky, the path whispers its story, inviting us to pause, to reflect, and to remember the ingenuity and resilience of the human spirit.